Once you have it firmly in mind, imagine it actually happening in your life, and then ask yourself the following question: if I could have it, would I take it? You may be surprised to discover that sometimes you don't want something. Knowing what you do not want clears your mind of the junk that keeps you from knowing what you do want. When your mind is littered with desires, the light can't penetrate the shadows. With your wish in mind, do 3 visualizations of scenes that portray the manifestation happening in your life. For example, see the cleaning lady knocking on the door, cleaning up the house with a smile on her face, and leaving the house with her money in hand. Never see this person as a specific person, because then you would be influencing another person with your mind. This is against the laws of karma, it does not work anyway, and it can really mess you up. It is conjuring. As you sense the proper visualization for each scene, close your eyes and see the first image in your third eye, the place between and above your eyebrows. Once it is clear in your third eye is a little picture, then transfer the image to the back of your skull, to the place where your neck connects with your skull, medulla oblongata, and see your medulla as a television screen. 15. Hold the image on the screen and strengthen it visually as much as you can, make it crackle, then go on to the next scene, and do the same thing again. Once you have visualized all 3 scenes, then say, "So be it." Do the same technique with the other wishes, then end your session and forget all about it, but keep your list. In a few months or a year, check your list, and you will be amazed how often things happened in the time frame you listed. Use the technique again when you feel like things are not moving along, when you feel stuck. The more you create your life with this simple manifestation technique, the more you will learn the power of your mind and experience the magic of God. You literally can create almost anything. The divine mind does not assist you unless you ask. Things may not manifest the way you think they should because 8D beings use 3D in a way that works from a much greater perspective. For example, I remember a young woman, not my student, who manifested the love of her life. Instead of a man, she got a daughter when she was single. That little girl turned out to be the love of her life. You may not realize you've actually created things for many years until you see how things come magically to you. Often how things work out is miraculous. According to the Pleiadian agenda, the moon has a huge influence on what we want because the moon reflects our desires to the sun, where our access to the 8D library is located. There are some great lunar techniques for using the power of our minds, which add to the solar power. First, let us see what the P's have to say about how the moon influences our world. The moon reflects our feelings. The moon reflects the collective thoughts of humanity, our feelings, back to us. The intensity of the moon's light is proportional to human feelings. Our personal mastery is based on dealing effectively with our feelings, so knowing about the lunar influence is very helpful. 16. We are sensitive during the new moon, our feelings intensify during the full moon, and we are especially affected by lunar eclipses. The surface of the moon is almost devoid of electromagnetism, so that its vibrations are very ethereal. Because the sun is 400 times larger than the moon, and the sun is 400 times farther from Earth, visually the moon appears to be the same size as the sun. The influence on us by the sun and moon are balanced and equal, although different. The sun vibrates solar wind frequencies as resonant waves, which it uses to read the locations and angles of the planets in the solar system. The moon captures energy from the solar wind, which it can read, and it mixes the solar data with our feelings. In our dreams, the moon transmits these luminescent, ethereal frequencies containing the records of our subconscious mental banks. Humans, animals, and plants magnetically draw consciousness from the moon. Compared with the polarized interactions of our reactive patterns bathed by the potent solar force, these lunar vibrations are very subtle. The moon simply emanates memories to us that modulate our responses to everything. Since we cannot develop our emotional bodies without memory, the moon holds our soul memories lifetime after lifetime. When we become ill because of negative emotional patterns, the moon transmits healing information to us. This makes it possible to feel what is wrong and know what to do about it. For those who value such acute sensitivity and cull this information, Bach flower remedies and aromatic oils can heal instantly. When we totally open up these lunar feeling receptors, we never need doctors or people to protect us. Whenever we have a lifetime on Earth, we can consciously work with our lunar subconscious memory banks to clear trauma and blocks, that is, process our feelings. We can be lighter, more harmonic, and happier by doing bodywork and spiritual therapy to clear these negative imprints. These old memories exist in our minds as belief systems that cause us to run inner tapes, such as, I can't have this, I can't do that. All these negative conclusions about ourselves are stored in the subconscious, which receives the lunar light. When we use manifestation, we can override negations and go straight for the positive outcomes. The moon plays a strong role in our emotional lives, which is obvious in police records that report heavy societal stress during full moons. Therefore, intentionally working with the moon and sun offers much potential. For 20 years, I have taught techniques for working with the moon, solstices, and equinoxes. I've discovered that the seasons and lunar cycles hold us in intense communion with the light when we direct our lives by manifestation. The moon waxes and wanes, as it emanates the records of our experiences by sending us dreams that trigger feelings. The moon sends Earth a new seed every month at the new moon, when the moon is hidden from the light of the sun. Out of the solar light, very high etheric potential bathes Earth, which can be analyzed by studying the new moon chart every month. By intentionally working with the lunar cycles, we can greatly accelerate the quality of our emotional lives and our health. The sun directs our intentions. The big solar cycles, equinoxes and solstices, are the best calendar to live by to craft our lives in harmony with the light. For most indigenous people, the new year is the spring equinox, and that is the time to manifest. The first 3 months of the new year up to the summer solstice are the time to receive and actualize things. The next 3 months up to the fall equinox are the time to develop these things, and the 3 months up to the winter solstice are the time to complete what we have been creating. The final 3 months in the winter up to the next spring equinox are the time to go into deep contemplation about the larger meaning of these creations. 17. Then the new spring equinox is the time to create new manifestations for another whole year. If you choose to manifest for the year exactly at the time of the spring equinox, things may change so powerfully and quickly that you may be shocked, so be very careful about what you choose. 18. When you create intentions at the spring equinox that you plan to work on for the year ahead, you go on the accelerated path. Pay attention when your consciousness tells you that you do not want to manifest something. Eventually, you will notice that what is in your mind is creating the realities all around yourself. If you could see the frequencies in your head, the movies in your mind of all the scripts waiting to happen, each one of you would clean up your mind. You are in divine communion when you own your own mind, which is an exquisite way to live. Once you really see all the potential you have, ordering your life by the seasons and the lunar cycles and using manifestation become essential. Now it is time to investigate the 9D timelines that emanate out of the 9D galactic center, since these are the timelines of all the potential manifestations on Earth. 9. The 9th dimension. The black hole in the center of the Milky Way. Opening meditation. Center yourself. This means pull all your energy to your center. Like a magnet attracting little metal filings to itself. Let your midline, your energy column, be that magnet. Feel yourself like a magnet, pulling all the parts of your body toward your center. This means your thoughts, your feelings, your past experiences, your future experiences, they are all drawn inward, toward your center. Now, close your eyes, and see this process in action. See all the parts of you being drawn energetically to your center. See them speeding to you, all of them. Do this until there is nothing more to draw to yourself. Be patient, this may take a while. The goal is to get to a place where there is no more, where there is only silence. Sit in the silence of yourself. Sit in this emptiness. Sit in this completeness, this sense of the whole. Empty but whole. Hear these words in your head. Notice what's going on around you. You might like to put your fingers together, either have all 5 meet all 5, or just have the index finger and thumb on each hand touching each other. Experiment, do what makes you feel whole. Now, become aware of your breath. Feel the breath coming inside you, and going outside yourself. Let the space outside of you do the breathing. Be breathed by the space outside of you. Go ahead. Try it. Notice the difference between breathing and being breathed. Just notice. Now expand your consciousness way outside the room you are in. Let your consciousness go out into the stars, into the galaxies outside our planet. See if you can find the center of our galaxy. Let yourself be drawn to it, like to a magnet. The magnet inside of you will help. Find that place that attracts you the most, like a giant magnet. Stay with this feeling of attraction. Notice what it feels like. See and feel and hear what else comes along. Stay perfectly still, and breathe evenly as you do this. Notice that you are still seated, yet you are light years outside yourself. Now, become aware of the room around you. Become aware of how the energies in the room come into you, and how the energies in you go into the room. Notice the circulation of energy. Picture the galactic center in your mind, and then picture this room. See how they relate. Simply take notice. Now, take a deep breath, and open your eyes. Stay with your breath. Take whatever time it takes for you to feel fully present in this room. Thank Galactic Center for attracting you, and know that you can travel there anytime, at any moment. It is always there. The ninth dimension emanates out of the black hole in the center of the Milky Way galaxy. A black hole is an object formed in the collapse of a large star, with such intense gravity that light cannot escape from it. According to the Ps, this black hole is the source of time in the 9-dimensional vertical axis from Earth's iron core crystal to the center of the Milky Way. They describe the black hole as a spinning gravitational nucleus that manifests itself in time waves. These waves were detected by the ancient Maya and are the basis of the mysterious Mayan calendar. These waves become creative agendas in our dimension that are felt by us as fascinations that attract our attention, such as comprehending our own evolution since time began. These time waves draw us into questing, seeking spirit in the material world. The Milky Way is the home of the ninth dimension, and its keeper is Solkan. The mysterious 9D black hole is in the center of the galaxy, which continually receives the forces of creation generated out of Earth's core in the vertical axis. According to physics, everything in the universe is omnicentric, which means realities unfold from centers. Point 1. Within our omnicentric evolutionary universe, reality unfolds from the beginning, always centered upon itself at each place of its existence. Just by being alive, we are in the geocentric center of this complex whole, which is expanding. The center we exist in connects us to everything because it is where the vertical axis of consciousness is located. Our nervous systems are designed to feel the cosmos via this axis. Since they know about this axis, the sacred tree, Native Americans always honor the 7 sacred directions when they pray to the 4 directions plus above, below, and heart, self. These prayers awaken omnicentric sensitivity in 3D, opening doorways to the subtle worlds where the ancestors live. The renowned Swedish biologist Carl Johan Kalman has found that the world tree of the Maya, for example, centers and organizes the physical and consciousness fields of Earth. 2. The great mystery is that our bodies and minds are now being activated by the full potency of the 9D black hole. This is happening because the plane of our solar system intersecting the galactic plane is in close aspect to the winter solstice sun, the galactic winter solstice. Point 3. This brief alignment is causing an infusion of high-frequency energy from the galactic center that is pulsing down into the vertical axis, like a tunnel or wormhole moving out of the black hole. The Ps say that what is left of Earth's biological intelligence in 2012 will pass through the black hole, a biological singularity. This winnowing of life that is valued by human love prepares us for the next stage of human evolution. The possibility of a biological singularity is a concept that is also being considered by science. Point 4. This black hole is a world of awesome, dark nothingness, which is filled with some of the densest matter in the universe. Lately, reality seems strange to us on Earth because we are struggling to encompass this potent force changing our world, and few people understand what is going on. We all live in a truly amazing moment in time. Earth scientists are entering our galaxy, which is important because realities do not actually exist unless they can be imagined or visualized. While many of us are being distracted by other stories being dished out by the media, astronomers and astrophysicists are quickly becoming the great adventurers in the Milky Way, the cosmonauts of the dark universe questing for the secrets of the universe. The Ps see the Milky Way as a jellyfish of light having orgasms that make eternal waves and pulsations in its field of attraction. According to them, our galaxy evolves in time and creates in space, based on the intentions of the divine mind described by the Mayan calendar. This is why the Ps say the keeper of the ninth dimension is Solkan, the 260-day-long day count of both ancient and contemporary Maya. The Ps define the future as any past memory that is still potent enough to allure us in the present moment, the now. Spinning on its axis, the galactic center shoots out 9D galactic synchronization beams that are torqued by axial spin. These beams and axes, plus the planes and belts already discussed, manifest agendas by means of evolutionary processes, the creative projects coming out of the galactic center. The galactic center is always receiving beams from other galaxies, the connectors of the intergalactic system. The Milky Way received the Big Galactic Synchronization Beam during harmonic convergence, August 16 and 17, 1987, which was joyously awaited by millions of humans who had heard about the Mayan calendar. 5. The Ps say that this beam caused the photon band, as it moved into the solar system, to attain new dimensional frequencies in a similar way to the funnel from the black hole already directing high frequencies into Earth. This beam shifted the whole Pleiadian system, which then set a new intention for Earth's next biological stage of evolution beyond the reptilian mode. 6. The galactic center exists in eternal samadhi or bliss. High frequencies are slowly building in Earth, especially in 2D, which is transmuting humans in 3D into silica-based instead of carbon-based creatures. 7. The Ps say that the galactic center pulses out nuclear waves of energy, and the 7D galactic information highways of light receive these pulsations. The pulsations are converted to sound waves detectable in our crown chakras, the ninth dimension of our bodies. When we attain samadhi by opening our crowns, we can detect these waves. The Ps say that as of 1998, samadhi waves have been increasing exponentially on Earth, which is radically altering nature. To higher dimensions, our world is becoming radiant, yet many humans are struggling with such pure high energy. 8. Attempting to cope with this unseen force, many individuals and groups are becoming obsessed with apocalyptic beliefs. They fear the end of time. This response to the times is dysfunctional, since the real need today is to value life and its powers of transmutation. The Mayan calendar and interdimensional merging. The most unusual thing about the Pleiadian view of the galactic center is that the black hole emits time waves that influence 3D, such as the galactic synchronization beam that arrived in August 1987 and inspired harmonic convergence. They say we can detect these time waves in events, such as human dramas in history, and that these signatures of light can be detected in what fascinates us. All other versions of time in other dimensions, such as 3D clock time, are faulty shadows of the real nature of time. Since time creates realities, then time is the creator by love and intentional thought. To organize cycles on Earth, the great being in the galactic center, Solkan, created the Mayan calendar to orchestrate Earth's evolution. Then spiritual masters use sacred calendars to help orchestrate events on Earth. They align with specific time waves by working with the keepers of all 9 dimensions. Carl Johann Kalman's discovery of Earth's evolutionary code in the Mayan calendar is the current guide for understanding the next stage of evolution that is coming in 2030. The Mayan calendar describes the big game that supersedes all other plans. The elite knows all about this game, since its agents, the conquistadors, plundered most of the calendars 400 years ago, and they sent fragments back to the Vatican archives. However, as a result of Kalman's discoveries, any one of us can understand the calendar. We can use this knowledge to understand the evolution of our species and the planet. Additionally, I am sure that thousands of years ago, shamans knew all about the evolutionary master plan, the story of time. In those days, we lived intensely in the present moment. Our brains were wired into the vertical axis because ancient cultures centered consciousness in the world tree, which drives evolutionary processes. Long ago, we experienced healthy bodies, open hearts, clear minds, and activated spirits. Emotional limitation was not part of our lives until the great geological changes 11,500 years ago, when we became afraid of living on Earth. 9. Tzolk'in heard our anguished cry and crafted a time wave designed to teach us how to process the fear. This has been an arduous process of sorting out and healing horrific memories of the cataclysm and the subsequent survival period. Most people's brains are still filled with depth charges, post-traumatic stress complexes, that tend to pull our attention into regions outside of the primary time wave. Minor time waves, such as becoming enslaved to agriculture, were useful as temporary training tools for survival, but now we are going beyond survival. We are scheduled to fly into the galaxy with no fear in our bodies. More than 5,000 years ago, Tzolk'in crafted a game called History for us to play in so that we could eventually attain brain synchronization. The Maya, a brilliant stellar culture from the Pleiades, were selected as the guides for this learning process. They agreed to this task on the condition they could move in and out of 3D at will, since they were not willing to be trapped in 3D clock time, which ironically they call Maya. The Maya can and do appear in 3D at will, as do the Pleiadians and many other beings. By managing your crown chakra, you also can move in and out of 3D at will, but few have attained this skill because first you must purify your emotions. By opening your crown chakra, you can detect the 7D sound waves coming out of the galactic center from Tzolk'in. Everything has changed now that Kalman has decoded the Mayan calendar. Any one of us can receive knowledge from the galactic center. We have come to the end of Tzolk'in's clever game, history, and so the galactic center is ripping open our crowns. The rest of our time after 2012 will be truly memorable. We are contemplating our role as the pinnacle of Earth's species, the sacred keepers of the third dimension. Science has been describing the Milky Way galaxy beautifully, and now enough Mayan masters have time jumped into 3D to teach us the game. All the Milky Way stars are connected to the galactic center, and our minds are wired into the stars because we are responding to these new frequencies. The Ps say that beings from many dimensions are unifying their consciousness with us while we process the hidden trauma in our bodies. Gaia's dimension makes us solid and able to hold any frequency that arrives here. Meanwhile, all beings in the universe want to experience our story. The only way anyone can benefit from this long-awaited interdimensional merging is to comprehend the qualities of all 9 dimensions by feeling them. Feelings are 4th through 9th dimensional fields that resonate in our nervous systems. When you contemplate the nature of the complex intelligence on the 9-dimensional vertical axis, including the potent black hole, eventually you can feel the cosmos. We are all feeling the intensification of the 2012 time wave, yet most people have no idea what is going on. My personal resonance with this process began in 1982, when my elders contacted me to ask me to prepare for the harmonic convergence celebrations that were to happen in August 1987. These days, any person can comprehend the time waves just by studying Carl Kalman's analysis of the calendar, which will be described in full. First, to appreciate this knowledge, we must know more about the Milky Way galaxy. So, if your curiosity about time acceleration is too much, just skip ahead to the Mayan calendar time wave. The Mayan calendar is the operating manual for Earth's evolution because it is one of the few things in 3D that makes any sense at this point. There is a huge time wave functioning as an attractor in the sky that is pulling us into a new stage of development, the apotheosis of Earth's biology. We humans are the biological pinnacle, and the Ps say that transmutation of our reptilian minds will send us into the stars, but only if we become true keepers of our planet. From an evolutionary perspective, our time has come, and some scientists have figured this out. For example, in Biocosm, the new scientific theory of evolution, intelligent life is the architect of the universe. 2003, science writer James N. Gardner presents his selfish biocosm hypothesis. The cosmos is selfishly focused on its own self-replication. Similarly, Gardner cites the astronomer Edward Harrison, who theorizes that our universe was once designed by minds like our own. Gardner posits that life and mind arise in the universe so the universe can regenerate and reproduce itself. 10. Some physicists and mathematicians have been studying emerging dynamics on Earth that seem to express the stated end of time in the calendar. The concept of chaotic attractors, advanced forms of order that influence less organized states, is considered to be the factor that could pull these states to an end. 11. The amazing thing about this to me is that, as we get closer to 2012, the Maya described the date of our emergence in the Milky Way thousands of years ago. Considering the selfish biocosm hypothesis, I wonder, are the Maya, the minds like our own, who designed us? Is that why the Maya knew the date of our emergence? Life on Earth will not end. Instead, Earth will expand into the Milky Way, which the selfish biocosm hypothesis predicts. Baby universes will be intelligently designed and sent out to populate the universe. The science of the ninth dimension. Considering Galileo and Giordano Bruno's astronomical discoveries only 400 years ago, this was when humans began to think of themselves as inhabitants of a planet that orbits around the Sun with the other planets. Before then, apparently they thought of themselves as people who lived on Earth in the center of the universe, a geocentric perspective. The Church burned Bruno at the stake to suppress the new heliocentric astronomical theories, and now we are beginning to explore the whole galaxy. There is much evidence that thousands of years ago, people knew that Earth orbits the Sun, but they used a geocentric view for personal perspective, just as astrologers do today. Physicists, astronomers, and astrophysicists have been successfully mapping the universe since the 1950s. They are penetrating the real nature of our galaxy and our place in it, possibly just in time for us to anticipate the 2012 singularity. More and more people know that we live on Earth, which orbits around the Sun, which orbits around the Milky Way. Many realize that the Andromeda and Milky Way galaxies are the largest in our local cluster, which orbits around the Virga supercluster, which is not moving at all. All the other superclusters are moving away from us so symmetrically that we've discovered that we are in the center of the cosmic expansion. 12. Even though many more discoveries are happening, we already know an amazing amount about our place in the galaxy, regardless of how old it is. Until 2002, Andromeda was thought to be twice as large as the Milky Way, but then a new outer ring of Milky Way stars was detected in 2002.13. This ring is estimated to be 10 times thicker than the rest of the galaxy and 120,000 light-years in diameter. A light-year is the distance light travels in 1 year, which is 5.88 trillion miles. Thus the Milky Way is by far the largest galaxy in our cluster, and more mysteriously, all the other galaxies are moving away from us. A strange exception, Andromeda is moving rapidly toward the Milky Way. The two galaxies are dancing with gravity like giant twins in the sky. 14. Note by Anata Amara. Scientists have found over 100 galaxies approaching us or blue shifted out of billions and billions of galaxies moving away. It is our understanding these represent the body of an ascending celestial being of which we are all a part. As an astrologer, I spend many hours visualizing the locations of the planets orbiting around the Sun. Now as I struggle from my vantage point on Earth to visualize the galactic landscape with myself inside it, what a mind expansion. Consider this. We can see millions of galaxies around us and ascertain whether they are disks or spirals, as well as their size, age, and star populations. Yet we will probably never be able to look at our galaxy from the outside, but it could look like Figure 9.1. Whenever we look out into the night sky, we can look one direction toward Sagittarius and peer into the galactic center, or we can look in the opposite direction through Gemini to gaze through our own spiral arm, the edge of the Orion arm, out into the universe, or we can look above or below the edge of the Orion arm to see beyond the thickness of the disk we travel in. Yet we cannot see the whole galaxy. For a long time, the Milky Way was thought of as a spiral galaxy, like Andromeda, and the latest thinking is we are a barred galaxy, that is, the arms of the galaxy are more like bars than spirals. 15. We may never know what our galaxy looks like because we are in the center of everything. The center of the galaxy is a huge bulge, and the arms radiating out from the center have a thin center plane with a thicker region above and below. Our solar system is located in the old area of the thin disk approximately 27,000 light-years from the center. At the present time, we are near Paragalacticon, which is our closest point to the galactic center during our approximately 225 million-year orbit around at point 16. As we make this approach, the solar flare cycle is changing. In November 2003, the Sun exploded with the largest flare ever recorded, yet the period of 2002 to 2010 was expected to be a dormant one for solar activity. As of March 2009, the Sun had been almost totally blank, no solar flares and only a few coronal mass ejections, for more than a year. 17. Note by Anata Amara. We are all witness and should by now be aware of the Sun's increasing activity and our own weakening electromagnetic field. This cycle increases as we approach the micronova, which will finally destroy third density by 2035. In case any are confused about 2012, let me say that in the higher dimensions we ascended and third density Earth ended then. But because of the beliefs of the soul fragments, a fourth-dimensional third-density replica world was created. With a far thinner veil and far less cohesive matrix than before, which devolves more and more with each awakening soul. The micronova will be a final cleanup of any stragglers not able to ascend by then. Meanwhile, we can now peer into the galactic center and study it, although there is a lot of interstellar dust in the way. We have a pretty good idea of our solar system's location in relation to the other stars in the galaxy and beyond, yet we can't view the galactic beast that we inhabit. The Milky Way black hole. At the opening of this chapter, the Ps noted that the galactic center is a black hole that is the source of time on the 9D vertical axis. It is a spinning gravitational nucleus that manifests itself in time waves, which create events on Earth. The Ps say the full potency of the black hole is activating us now as we struggle to comprehend such high energy. They say that this is forcing us to process deep trauma, to go beyond just survival, because the vertical axis is transmitting intense energy waves from the black hole. When all this information came through me in 1995, I had no idea what any of it meant, especially the idea of time waves. So, I studied astrophysics, and I became more and more mesmerized by the black hole in the center, because it warps time. Time warping may be the reason we are processing the buried trauma now. Figure 9.2, a fanciful depiction of the vertical axis energy shooting out of the black hole in the Milky Way. Scientists have been suspicious for 20 years or so that a black hole was lurking in the Milky Way center, but it was not confirmed until 2002.18 sensitive X-ray images captured the galactic center, located astronomically at 27 degrees Sagittarius, flaring with intense eruptions every day. From this center, radio waves are emitted out of the Sagittarius A black hole, which has more mass than the Sun, but is not especially large. A cluster of blue stars named IRS-16, infrared source, lies above the black hole. This cluster hurls material into the hole, and the ejecta blasts a nearby red supergiant star, IRS-7, causing its gaseous surface to flare into a tail, like a comet. This complex of stars flares at least once a day for about 90 minutes, erupting with X-ray bursts 10 to 45 times more powerful than the Sun's energy, and these short-term flares are apparently unique in the Milky Way galaxy. 19. To be able to visualize such powerful images, we need to know more about black holes. Science struggles to comprehend them by mathematical analysis that shows they do strange things with time. A black hole forms when a large star experiences a rapid gravitational collapse and gets sucked down into a funnel, which is shaped by the curvature of spacetime. It gets steep as the density of matter increases, figure 9.3. Once matter is sucked into this funnel, it is crushed into intensifying density, yet since matter is energy, it becomes a singularity, a point of zero size, and then it reappears in a different universe. Itzhak Bentov, one of the great minds of the last century, who walked out of kindergarten and never went back to school, says that what happens in the different universe is a white hole, which he conceives of as a new universe. 20. From my own research and from listening to what students report when they travel into the galactic center, I have arrived at the thought that we are going to be propelled into a new universe in 2012. This idea is supported by James N. Gardner's selfish biocosm hypothesis. Our students are having kinesthetic responses to this idea, as if they sense it in their bodies. It is difficult for us to imagine such an idea, just as it was for scientists to find ways to describe black holes, yet Bentov imagined a similar concept way back in 1977. Bentov notes that with this model, once we have a black hole, we have a white hole, since matter is energy, and he calls its nexus point a nucleus, which I've marked as 2012 on the diagram to signify the end of the Mayan calendar. This nucleus is a reference point for when time begins again, and from there we can best describe the development of matter from radiation to atoms and galaxies. In this model, time is simply a measure of distance, a dimension that overlaps our three spatial dimensions. This model works well with Einstein's relativity model, yet it also allows for many dimensions beyond four. Bentov notes that time does not flow anywhere, it just is. Matter is what moves along. In the nine-dimensional model, the dimension that emerges out of the nucleus is the top of the vertical axis. What fascinates me is that Bentov's model describes time in a similar way to the Pleiadian concept, and it also has interesting resonance with Julian Barber's Platonia described in chapters 5 and 6. Bentov notes that as we move in space, we are also moving on a time axis, which is exactly what the Mayan calendar time wave is. 22. Bentov notes that what is expanding is our spacetime, and the greatest rate of expansion occurs at the point when matter reverses direction in the nucleus connector of the black hole and white hole. Scientists call the outside edge of the black hole funnel the event horizon, which is the boundary beyond which light cannot escape. Figure 9.5. Once matter crosses it, it is sucked down the hole. They say that once sucked in, if you could look back you'd see the future history of the universe flash before your eyes, yet once inside you'd be unable to communicate anything you saw back to anyone outside it. As you approach the singularity, the point when you come out in another universe, you'd feel yourself torn apart atom by atom. Then, at the singularity, everything we've ever known about the universe breaks down. As you will see in a moment, the singularity idea fits well with Kalman's final time acceleration during 2011, which he calls the universal underworld. Bentov has got it right. A new universe is created as it always was, eternally. This is why there is little to fear about 2011-2012. The renowned theoretical physicist Kip Thorne notes that the black hole's gravity pulls atoms of gas from all directions of interstellar space toward the center of the black hole. Figure 9.6. These atoms speed up as they approach the center, going faster, then extremely fast, then almost as fast as the speed of light. Far from the hole they produce slowly oscillating electromagnetic M waves, radio waves, then, closer in, the M waves are the color range from red to violet, like a radial rainbow, then they vibrate very fast as X-rays, and finally, as they speed up even faster, they produce gamma rays. 24. Let yourself visualize the superhot atoms streaming into the absolutely black hole. That is the radial 9D energy vortex that generates the 10D vertical axis in Earth that is intensifying our consciousness now. The Mayan calendar time wave, 16.4 billion years ago through AD 2011. The discovery and interpretation of the Mayan calendar is one of dedicated and spirited scholarship by a cadre of adventurous people. During the 19th century, when explorers discovered the ruins of Maya temples in the jungles of Mesoamerica, the remains of the Maya civilization first came to light. Carvings of mysterious glyphs and numerical symbols on the Maya temples, pottery, and engraved standing stones, steel, intrigued archaeologists and anthropologists. It all seemed to be an impossible puzzle with the remnants of a lost language and/or mathematical system wildly scattered about the ruins. A few intrepid researchers worked to decipher this code for many years. Finally, by the 1930s, sufficient glyphs had been deciphered and correlated. Researchers could see that the classic Maya, AD 200 through 900, were obsessed with computing time and determining its meaning. They could see that they had complex calendars. The first major decipherment was the discovery of the long count. The 5,125-year historical cycle that began around 3113 BC and ends in AD 2012. The long count consists of 13 baktuns of approximately 394 years that accurately describes the simultaneous rise of civilization 5,125 years ago and its 13 stages of development. The facts are, the Maya computed this cycle of history more than 1,000 years ago, including the stages that came after their time. One has to wonder, why did the Maya document this historical cycle and what is the meaning of its completion in 2012? Back in the 1970s and 80s, as the world approached 2012, a group of new researchers became obsessed with these questions, and I was one of them. Astronomically, the calendar's end occurs during a period when our planet moved into exact alignment with our galaxy, the galactic winter solstice, in May 1998. As already noted, the piece said back in 1995 that this galactic alignment is activating the 9-dimensional vertical axis choreographed by Solkin in the galactic center. The new researchers also felt that some mysterious qualities of time seemed to be the focus of the calendar, but what? In 2005, I finally realized Carl Johann Kalman had discovered the real meaning of the calendar. He says it describes 16.4 billion years of evolution in the universe that is culminating in AD 2011. Regarding 2011 versus 2012, Kalman says that the Maya tweaked the long count dating around AD 700. Thus Kalman's Great Year begins in 3115 BC and ends in AD 2011.25. Kalman discovered that the Mayan calendar describes evolution proceeding through a series of time accelerations through 2011. Other researchers also noticed that the great numbers recorded by the classic Maya in their calendar are in close concordance with the transition dates of cosmological and evolutionary science. However, Kalman saw that time acceleration is the key that unlocks the Maya system of dates. Kalman discovered the evolutionary basis of the Mayan calendar by going way back earlier in time before the 5,125-year historical cycle, the long count, which is only one cycle of 9. For longer cycles of time, he focused on the Cobas-Steele 1, which names cycles going back 16.4 billion years, as well as unnamed dates that go much farther back in time. He wondered if this first named cycle of 16.4 billion years, 13 hablatans, described creation going all the way back to the Big Bang? The second cycle, 13 alatans, is 820 million years long, which is a division of the first cycle by 20. He noticed that this second cycle, or underworld, is almost the same length as the scientific classification of organisms, 850 million years of the evolution of complex life, that was completed during the 1950s. Being a biologist, this close concordance really got his attention, so he called it the mammalian underworld. There are 9 underworlds that are creation periods divided into 13 cycles of equal length, the 13 heavens, of the Maya, and all 9 underworlds end simultaneously in 2011. To understand why the Maya divided these underworlds by 20, have 13 stages, and are called underworlds and heavens, read my book or Kalman's 2 books on the calendar. 26. Here, I can only offer a mini snapshot of calendar mechanics, which are very complicated and fraught with controversy. 27. For this book, all I can cover is material that elucidates the calendar's role as the keeper of the 9th dimension. For those readers who know something about Mayan calendars, Solkin, the 260-day Maya day count, is the keeper of the 9th dimension. Then by numerical harmonics, the day calendar resonates with the greater Mayan calendar, which is why following the day count relates individuals to greater time cycles. 28. To put this as simply as possible, the Mayan calendar describes 9 underworlds of creation that all end simultaneously in 2011. The length of each underworld is 20 times shorter than the previous one, which has caused time to accelerate 20 times faster, underworld by underworld, since the Big Bang. That is, each underworld describes a phase of evolution that is going 20 times faster than the previous one. Time accelerations kicked in whenever the previous underworld attained a division of itself by 20, which is a great mystery. For example, 820 million years is 1/20th of 16.4 billion years. When this critical leap moment arrived 820 million years ago, suddenly complex life forms appeared in the primordial sea, single-celled animals called prokaryotes that eventually evolved into mammals and eventually humans. Each underworld develops through 13 equal stages, heavens, that seed, grow, and then mature each theme. For example, if you divide 820 million years by 13, you get 13 allotons, 13 heavens that are each 63 million years long. Notice that the most recent evolutionary leap was exactly 63 million years ago when dinosaurs went extinct, which made space for placental mammals to evolve. 29. Figure 9.7, the 9 underworlds of creation, gives the dates for each one of the 9 underworlds, plus a table on the side that indicates the phenomena that developed during each one. The dates from the Mayan calendar that were carved on a stele in the Yucatan around 1300 years ago describe biological cycles that modern science was only able to catalog about 60 years ago. Progressive phases of evolution, such as mammals, hominids, and history, kicked into gear exactly when the calendar's next time acceleration occurred. The key Maya mathematical factor, the division of the prevailing underworld by 20, is what speeds time up, and the driver of these changes is the world tree. 30. If your mind is boggled right now, it's because this is a mind-boggling idea, a brilliant idea that has been lying dormant in an ancient calendar that ends in just a few short years. Let's move to more recent times, to consider things with which we are more familiar. The most recent time acceleration, the 8th underworld, was the opening of the galactic underworld in 1999. Time went 20 times faster in 1999 than it had during the previous underworld, the planetary underworld, which began in 1755 when industry evolved. At this point, time has become a fast-moving tight spiral, especially because of technology. If it is really true that all 9 underworlds culminate simultaneously in 2011, then we must be on the verge of an apotheosis of all biological and cosmic evolution. Well, this is exactly what the brilliant paleontologist, Teilhard de Chardin, said would happen now. 31. This is what alchemy of 9 dimensions is all about, which is why I am so excited about Kalman's evolutionary hypothesis. When I first channeled the 9 dimensions back in 1995, I knew virtually nothing about science, and I was very spiritual. I had avoided evolutionary theory because social Darwinism based on the survival of the fittest is a violent interpretation of Darwin, while scientific materialism has used Darwin to eliminate the creative director of the intricate web of life. After arduously learning the basics of most sciences to write this book in 2004, I could not grasp the meaning of the 9th dimension until I found Kalman's time acceleration hypothesis in 2005. Finally, this high, formative, and essential dimension has clarified. We have arrived at the moment of comprehending our origins just in time to take the next step, the critical leap of human evolution. The only question left is, how? Teaching time acceleration and the 9 dimensions. The Mayan Code, Time Acceleration and Awakening the World Mind, my study of the implications of Kalman's hypothesis, was published in 2007. As a result, I then had to introduce time acceleration in the 9th dimension during our Pleiadian agenda activations. As you can possibly feel, this may be the most complicated idea anybody ever discovered. Our students had signed up to activate 9 dimensions of consciousness in a group, and most of them had not read my latest book or heard about Kalman. For many of them, evolutionary biology and time acceleration was going to be a huge stretch. So, I had to find a way to help them resonate with it by showing them that they can actually feel time acceleration in their bodies, emotions, minds, and souls. In my desperation to not create a room full of snores, I stumbled on something very meaningful. For most of us except for Christian fundamentalists, evolution brings up compelling images of our long climb through time from the Big Bang through the first cells, to complex mammals, through struggling hominids, and to sensitive Neanderthals burying their relatives in red ochre and flowers, and finally to the dramatic appearance of Cro-Magnons. Evolution is the central story that describes our long journey to enter communion with our Creator. It is sad that fundamentalists miss this point, since it is only scientific materialism that denies the existence of a creative director. Evolution is a sensual and profoundly gripping record of the real meaning and direction of life. Here I will offer some of the ideas that our students responded to strongly, ideas that got many of them to study time acceleration, as well as to jump out of their seats. The 5,125-year historical cycle, the national underworld, started with the sixth time acceleration in 3115 BC. This happens to be the best explanation for the sudden and simultaneous rise of civilization around the world at that time. Before this, the regional underworld started 102,000 years ago, when anthropologists say that our Neanderthal ancestors suddenly became like modern humans. They created art, practiced religion, and developed progressively advanced civilizations, such as the global maritime culture, a seafaring, coastal world more than 20,000 years ago. 32. Their artifacts and cave art suggest they were immersed in nature and very right-brained, they lived in Eden. Our species lost this idyllic state during the catastrophes and the survival period, but we all remember deep inside being at peace with nature. Then, like an iron hammer coming down, suddenly, 5,125 years ago, humans felt the compulsion to build temples and cities, which forced them to live in hierarchical systems run by priests and kings. Many of us can still feel this sudden and wrenching speed up in our bodies, and we long for the time and pace of Eden. Dividing the 5,125-year historical cycle by 20, the next time acceleration kicked into gear in 1755, just when industry went into gear around the planet. We were wrenched out of our simple country and village life and crammed into factories and mills, while the aristocracy became rich and bloated on their profits. Cut off from nature and family life so recently, we feel the 1755 time acceleration as the loss of joy in the simple life. This is the planetary underworld, which is only 256 years long, so now the spiral is really tightening. Dividing the planetary by 20, the next time acceleration began in early 1999, the galactic underworld. Suddenly, the internet and cell phones accelerated our separate lives within the urban economy and organized societies. We connected to many others regardless of where they were located, instead of through the structures of civilization and industry. This reconnection is leading us back into global communion, yet to find a mate one must use a computer. If you tune into your inner time sense, you can feel each one of these time speedups that occurred during historical memory when a new underworld arrived. During the final and ninth underworld, the universal underworld, time will speed up by 20 times in February 2011, which is what the end of the calendar is really all about. Imagine your life going 20 times faster during 2011 than it has been since 1999. So, with a sense of what time acceleration theory is all about, what does all this have to do with opening 9 dimensions of consciousness in 2011-2012? Using time acceleration during the completion of the Mayan calendar. Often in this text I have said that we are a multi-traumatized species because we experienced a series of terrible cataclysms around 12,000 years ago. I wrote a whole book about it in 2001 called Catastrophobia, which means the subconscious fear of catastrophes. The basic idea is that we all have very deep and unprocessed memories of being in disasters and then of living during subsequent survival periods. Well, a similar thing goes on with the long evolutionary path. Deep inside we remember that moment when we were a fish that first dared to crawl onto the land and become an amphibian. We remember the moment when we stood up the first time, perhaps just to get a better view, and then we realized we could use our hands to make tools. We remember being dinosaurs and dying out when our appetites and great size were no longer sustainable by the ecosystems. We remember being hairy and seeking warmth in caves during the ice ages. We remember being slower and simpler, and now we can feel ourselves moving faster, faster, and faster. Now we are on the verge of understanding where we are on the Fibonacci spiral, see figure 8.2, because time acceleration and the evolutionary cycles have been revealed in the Mayan calendar. We have our total story and can imagine our origins. Like gods, we can see how we began and where we are going. This is an awesome moment in time. As each underworld progresses through its developmental stages, 7 days and 6 nights of unfolding evolution, we make rapid strides during the days, and then we process these changes during the nights. The days and nights of the first underworld, the cellular, are 1.26 billion years long, divide 13 into 16.4 billion years, and by the same division the days and nights of the current galactic underworld are only 360 days long. In other words, we are accomplishing evolution in 360 days that once took 1.26 billion years, or took 63 million years. Any day or night of any underworld has similar qualities because they initiate and develop certain processes, for example, seeding new creations during day 1 or having the creation flower during day 6. All 9 underworlds end simultaneously, as you can see in figure 9.7. My own teachings relate to Kalman's model on the basis of healing ourselves so that it is even possible to evolve, in other words, to accomplish the critical leap. Since 1999, in less than 13 short years, the days and nights of the galactic underworld have been stirring up the hidden trauma memory from previous underworlds. During days and nights that are only 360 days long, many people have been feeling very weird living within cultures that have been exhibiting rapid and strange turns of events. The most persistent traumas we are waiting to clear and heal come from living during the 5,125-year historical cycle, when the patriarchy insisted that history repeats itself in a series of endlessly repeating circles. Contrary to the cyclical model of history, the time acceleration model sees history as an ascending spiral that is now approaching its source, its first spin. As we approach the event horizon of a black hole, we are right on the edge of the next evolutionary critical leap during the final time acceleration. Only 260 days during 2011, the universal underworld, when the days and nights will each be 20 days long instead of 360. Our next question is, since we've been so conditioned to think in terms of ever-repeating circles, what could possibly happen that would really change anything? Earth's quarantine in the universe ends in AD 2011. When I came to the point of wondering in 2006 what our critical leap could be, I realized that Homo aggressus, man of war, would go extinct in 2011, and Homo pacem, man of peace, would be the next evolutionary line. Then I began to wonder how this could happen. As the Pleiadians suggested years ago, we are about to re-enter the universe and to cease being isolated on Earth. This outcome is also the central thesis of a newly emerging field in global study, exopolitics, which has mainly been developed by the international legal expert and Stanford Research Institute futurist, Alfred Lambrement Weber.33. According to exopolitics and my own sources, Earth is an isolated planet in the midst of an evolving and highly organized interplanetary, intergalactic, and multidimensional universe. Earth is a member of a collective universe that functions by universal law, and life was planted and cultivated here under the stewardship of more advanced societies. Yet, when a planet endangers the whole, which Earth is so obviously doing now, the universe government can remove the planet from open circulation within universe society. 34. I believe this happened around 12,000 years ago when we became a multi-traumatized species during the cataclysms, and Weber agrees with that. In other words, Earth was quarantined. I think the end of the Mayan calendar announces the end of our isolation, and I have been watching this happening as each one of us heals ourselves and then evolves out of the mass trauma mindset. As an aside, the planet that rules the wounded healer complex, Chiron, was sighted in 1977, when people went on a personal healing binge. 35. I mention this because now, during the end of the calendar, Chiron is almost continuously conjunct with Neptune in Aquarius, the planet that rules spiritual ascension. This is a cue that says Earth's people are going to heal themselves by healing spiritual separation. The planets are lined up, the calendar is in gear, and technology is connecting everybody. We are going to stop killing each other. Alchemy of 9 dimensions has appeared now because the universe links consciousness in a 9-dimensional system. Dimensions go out of form unless they are experienced, and knowing them, being them, and breathing them keeps them alive. For example, without the 7D dimension of sound, which functions by known mathematical principles Pythagorean, 6D geometry, the structure of life would not formulate. We have mostly lost connection with the higher dimensions, causing us to devolve into a lethal species that could destroy the whole universe. Until 1999, we were limiting our access to just a few of the lower dimensions, and then when time accelerated again, we began expanding our access to higher worlds exponentially. For all 9 dimensions to open on Earth, we must live in them with sacred music and be with the divine mind, maintain perfect form and open our hearts, and creatively circulate the collective mind to one another. As we do so, the new circulation of high frequencies during the galactic underworld will end our quarantine in the universe. To prevent humanity from freeing itself, the elite 4D controllers have been debunking and ridiculing all teachings about the subtle and non-physical dimensions. They have distracted people's attention by concretizing non-physical contact, for example, by making these realms into little green men and flying saucers. Meanwhile, for the most part, connection with subtle beings in the universe is an energetic light experience, which is by far the most common form of human contact with other intelligences in the universe. Re-entering the universe in 2011 is not about UFOs and direct communications with outer space, although there may be some of that. Re-entering the universe in 2011 is about our own ability to respond to the 9 dimensions so that we can link with all that is. The most profound communion with higher realms will come from remembering our story of evolution because our journey in time was carefully seeded and then guided by stewards in advanced societies. Once people see that we have been participating in a planned and guided creation, the reverence for the preciousness of all life will end aggression and violence. It is already happening now. We return to the galaxy, the home of the 9th dimension, because it is there that we can see without a doubt what will happen soon. Time waves and gamma-ray bombardments. Recalling what the Ps had to say about time and the galactic center, they say it emits time waves that create events on Earth that reflect the light, the intelligence of the divine mind. We humans explore these time waves when we follow our fascinations, which incite us to seek spirit in our world. Considering the galactic alignment in 1998, the Ps said that in 1998 9D Samadhi waves would begin to radically alter nature. To my utter astonishment, a tremendous X-ray and gamma-ray bombardment from a magnetar, a collapsed star believed to have greater mass than the Sun, and that is compressed in a 12-mile diameter, blasted Earth in August 1998.36 for 10 minutes. The sky was writhing with light, which shut down ordinary scientific instruments, and many people saw the writhing dragon of light in the early morning sky. This moment was the first observed physical change to our atmosphere from a star other than our Sun. The blitz caused our ionosphere, upper atmosphere, to shrink from its greater nighttime height to its smaller daytime altitude. It turned night into day, our first divine fireworks. Amazingly, Earth's resilient atmosphere shielded its surface from being fried by the gamma rays. Scientists noted that similar X-ray cosmic blasts closer to Earth might have been the cause of species extinctions in the past, which often correlate with the potential for fast stages of new evolution, such as the beginning of the Cambrian period 570 million years ago. Based on the mammalian underworld model, the Cambrian was day 3, when complex life sprouted. I think we experienced a jolt of high energy in 1998 that may end up being viewed as the initiator of a new stage of evolutionary consciousness. Regarding the calendar, this level of energy made it possible for time to accelerate by 20 times in early 1999. In 1996, cosmologists also discovered that the expansion of the universe is speeding up, and in 1998, they proposed that the cosmic acceleration may be an effect from another universe. 37. In 2002, astronomers announced that all of a sudden, in 1998, Earth's gravity field began getting stronger at the equator and weaker at the poles. A mysterious bulge formed at the equator during 1998, which is another significant change that prepared Earth for the galactic underworld shift. 38. In 1998, physicists suggested that gravity is comparable to the other three fundamental forces because it is diluted by its propagation through the unseen dimensions. 39. Big cosmic events happened during 1998 that opened Earth's field for the eighth time: acceleration in January 1999. These concepts are mind-boggling and contain very startling new implications for our species and the planet. Thus, when I sat down to write this book in 2003, I found I could not describe the scientific aspects of the 9 dimensions until first I could explain how and why crop circles are being created in our times. The makers of the circles have been our most tactile and artistic teachers about multidimensionality, and they became my guides for this book. I wrote chapters 10 and 11 before I wrote the first 9. In the fields of grain, mostly in England, crop circles have been demonstrating the 9-dimensional model year after year in ever more complex patterns. They have even created Maya symbols. My next chapter, which begins part 2, will consider the crop circle phenomenon and how it relates to the 9 dimensions. Part 2. Experiencing the 9 dimensions. You now have a basic understanding of dimensional codes, and of how science explores seen and unseen realms. While science and the Pleiadians have been prodding us to stretch our minds out of the solid world that seems fixed in space and time, the makers of crop circles, the circle makers, have been painting the fields mostly in England with astonishing 9-dimensional geometry, as if Pythagoras has somehow learned how to fly. Interacting with the Pleiadians and the circle makers can be a parallel journey. Nothing on this planet in modern times offers so much knowledge about the 9-dimensional form as do the crop circles. The 9 dimensions penetrate our world and inspire us to expand our consciousness, and a good way to do this is by exploring crop circles and mind-body healing. Notice that while the circle makers have been awakening the living earth, a great wave of mind-body healing has been occurring. Millions of clients and thousands of healers have been exploring ancient techniques that teach us to use our minds and higher selves for health and well-being. The 9-dimensional model greatly facilitates mind-body healing, and that is why healers are always present during our activations. The final chapter is Jerry's exploration of healing in the 9 dimensions, since we each must start with our own healing and our own personal journey with this material. 10. Crop circles and the 9 dimensions. Crop circles are the big news on Earth while black holes are the big news in the galaxy. Barbara Hand Clow. Crop circles are the most mysterious phenomenon happening on Earth right now, as geometric symbols are appearing in the fields of wheat and rapeseed in 4 counties in England known collectively as Wessex, and all over the world. These complex symbols often resemble megalithic art, such as the Newgrange spirals, and more recent indigenous art, such as that by the Hopi, Australian Aborigines, and the Dogon. Some crop circles are based on complex fractal geometry and the golden mean proportions. Crop circles are deeply connected with the downloads of information I've been receiving from the Pleiadians since the early 1980s, as well as with my research into the latest superstring theory. In the Pleiadian model and in string theory, the 10th dimension 10D is some kind of vertical activator of the first 9 dimensions, and this structure also elucidates much about crop circles. Keep in mind that the P's say we are ready to activate 9 dimensions within our bodies, not 10, 11, or more. For me, 10D is the vertical axis rising from the center of Earth into the black hole in the galactic center. That 10th dimension generates the 9 dimensions that we can perceive. I'd like to share my personal connections with the circle makers, spelled with a capital C because I think of them as the light. Contemplation of the circles has greatly enhanced my ability to understand all 9 dimensions, and the circles have become progressively more complex and multidimensional since 1995, the year when Edward Witten correctly described string theory. Recent complex trigonometric and fractal circles have been astonishing researchers, and decoding how they are made has actually been accomplished. Crop circles are the big news on Earth while black holes are the big news in the galaxy. Researchers have been deciphering the crop circle messages and, based on a lot of experimental data, have formulated specific scientific theories describing how the crop circles form. How do I dare say who I think is figuring out this great mystery? Because of my relationship with the Pleiadians, I believe I understand exactly what is going on. the circle makers have been deeply involved in my writing from the first. Whenever I have written a book, once the feeling of it arrived, I made a sculpture or a series of symbols to help me bring it into 3D. For this book, I have been using an altar with a record crystal, the 5 platonic solids, a carving of Krishna, and pieces of spiral coral that exhibit the golden mean. While I was writing Heart of the Christos 1989, The Liquid Light of Sex 1991, Signet of Atlantis 1992, and The Pleiadian Agenda 1995, some of the symbols I used for writing these books appeared at the same time in England. I will describe just a few of these remarkable synchronicities, such as Signet of Atlantis and the Barbary Castle, Circle, see Figure 10.1. Years after this 1991 synchronicity event, I realized that the Barbary Castle crop circle was a demonstration of 9-dimensional geometry, which I will analyze with Freddie Silva's assistance based on his monumental Secrets in the Fields 2002. Barbary Castle was a quantum leap in circle design back in 1991, when its subtle complexity impressed everyone. During this journey, I've often wondered who is teaching whom, and rationally my connection with the phenomena does seem unbelievable. Luckily, I taught at a few crop circles conferences, where I was able to demonstrate and test these links in public, which were later verified by experts. At a Power Places Tours Crop Circles conference in England in 1997, my students and some of the faculty meditated with symbols I'd designed, and then versions of them appeared on the fields 3 times in the next few weeks, see Chapter 11. Nobody was more amazed than I. These events were witnessed and confirmed by key crop circle researchers Colin Andrews, John Michel, and Terry Weiss. By sharing this experience, I am adding to the growing body of data proving that the circle makers communicate directly with some researchers. Point 1. My story adds key information to the astonishing conclusions described in this chapter. I know that many of us have been receiving these exquisite crop circle transmissions in our consciousness. When new symbols are transmitted from 8D light, all the people on Earth are transmuted by them as Gaia herself rejuvenates. Indigenous people work with calendars to predict times of revelation, so they can watch for the 8D symbols that can reawaken their cellular memory and remake the human bridge to the subtle worlds. Our times have been very dark since September 11, 2001. In 1989, my Mayan sisters and brothers frequently told me I had no idea how dark it would get, and they were right. Often the circle makers have kept me from utter despair. Harmonic Convergence, August 16–17, 1987. The circle makers are orchestrating the progressive initiatic awakening of our species, since we are the keepers of Gaia. This awakening is timed by the mysterious Mayan calendar, which was recorded in stone in Mayan temples in Mexico and Guatemala thousands of years ago. A key turning point in the calendar occurred on August 16–17, 1987, galactic synchronization, which was the shift point into the last 25 years of the calendar. Jose Argüelles and indigenous teachers called for a planetary ceremony, harmonic convergence, so that we humans could receive high-frequency transmissions from the center of the Milky Way. Point 2. Argüelles believes that in 1987 humanity began vibrating in resonance with the center of the Milky Way, which pulses with gamma rays. This is the same thing as saying the 10D vertical axis from the black hole quickened the 1D iron core crystal. Jerry and I were deeply involved in the ceremonies in 1987 with more than 100,000 native peoples at Teotihuacan, Mexico. Ceremonies during equinoxes and solstices have since been faithfully carried out by the Maya, as they will until December 21, 2012. There is a total news blackout on this significant cultural phenomenon, yet each year a million indigenous people jam Teotihuacan and the roads leading to it to attend ceremonies during the spring equinox. During this journey, I've often wondered who is teaching whom, and rationally my connection with the phenomena does seem unbelievable. Luckily, I taught at a few crop circles conferences, where I was able to demonstrate and test these links in public, which were later verified by experts. At a Power Places Tours Crop Circles conference in England in 1997, my students and some of the faculty meditated with symbols I'd designed, and then versions of them appeared on the fields 3 times in the next few weeks, see Chapter 11. Nobody was more amazed than I. These events were witnessed and confirmed by key crop circle researchers Colin Andrews, John Michel, and Terry Weiss. By sharing this experience, I am adding to the growing body of data proving that the circle makers communicate directly with some researchers. Point 1. My story adds key information to the astonishing conclusions described in this chapter. I know that many of us have been receiving these exquisite crop circle transmissions in our consciousness. When new symbols are transmitted from 8D light, all the people on Earth are transmuted by them as Gaia herself rejuvenates. Indigenous people work with calendars to predict times of revelation, so they can watch for the 8D symbols that can reawaken their cellular memory and remake the human bridge to the subtle worlds. Our times have been very dark since September 11, 2001. In 1989, my Mayan sisters and brothers frequently told me I had no idea how dark it would get, and they were right. Often the circle makers have kept me from utter despair. Harmonic Convergence, August 16–17, 1987. The circle makers are orchestrating the progressive initiatic awakening of our species, since we are the keepers of Gaia. This awakening is timed by the mysterious Mayan calendar, which was recorded in stone in Mayan temples in Mexico and Guatemala thousands of years ago. A key turning point in the calendar occurred on August 16–17, 1987, galactic synchronization, which was the shift point into the last 25 years of the calendar. José Argüelles and indigenous teachers called for a planetary ceremony, harmonic convergence, so that we humans could receive high-frequency transmissions from the center of the Milky Way. Point 2. Argüelles believes that in 1987 humanity began vibrating in resonance with the center of the Milky Way, which pulses with gamma rays. This is the same thing as saying the 10D vertical axis from the black hole quickened the 1D iron core crystal. Jerry and I were deeply involved in the ceremonies in 1987 with more than 100,000 native peoples at Teotihuacan, Mexico. Ceremonies during equinoxes and solstices have since been faithfully carried out by the Maya, as they will until December 21, 2012. There is a total news blackout on this significant cultural phenomenon, yet each year a million indigenous people jam Teotihuacan and the roads leading to it to attend ceremonies during the spring equinox. During the 1989 Mayan initiatic ceremonies with Hunbat's men, we traveled from Palenque to Chichen Itza and met with the tribal elders in each region. During the culmination at Chichen Itza, it was prophesied that Quetzalcoatl would appear in the sky as the serpent descended the pyramid. As the pipe ceremonies completed at the foot of the descending serpent, and the full moon rose while the sun set, asteroid 1989A zoomed over 40,000 people in an air imploding roar and crashed into the sea just off the Yucatan Peninsula. This was the expected return of Quetzalcoatl, the sacred serpent. Astronomers, but not Hunbat's men and the Maya, were surprised by this close asteroid. Point 4. Because of this incredible experience, I have been watching ever since for changes on Earth that are being caused by our resonance with the galactic center. Crop circles are the most important and consistent signs of this progression. The first simple crop circles began appearing in the late 1980s, although there have been occasional reports of simple ones since 1680. Soon after harmonic convergence, they became more complex, and they have become extremely complicated since 1998. According to astrophysics, in 1998 the plane of our solar system moved into alignment with the plane of our galaxy. This caused an extreme frequency shift. See Chapter 9, which is being documented by the circle makers. Freddie Silva notes, during the 1998 and 1999 seasons there was a mood swing, as if a new type of energy had lodged itself within the Earth. This energy was reflected in the crop circles. They seemed more agitated, some more disruptive to the body than usual. In others, the veil between the seen and the unseen felt thinner than ever. The mood among people, particularly the competition among crop circle experts, was abrasive, confrontational, and more polarized than ever. A new wave of crop circles appeared whose designs fit neither the recognized hand of humans nor the will of the watchers. What changed? 5. Consciousness researchers have taken harmonic convergence seriously, because so many predicted changes have actually happened since 1987. Researchers have also been attempting to comprehend what might happen at the end of the Mayan calendar in 2012. Strangely, few Mayan calendar researchers have paid much attention to our solar system's alignment with the galactic center in 1998. Ironically, hardcore scientists report that Earth exhibited bizarre changes in 1998, and they are so enthralled with galaxies and black holes that they are turning into mystics. Meanwhile, crop circles are actually describing the changes in the unfolding galactic alignments, as if they are the handwriting of the Mayan calendar. This is an exceedingly complex topic, since it involves both symbolic and astrophysical phenomena. However, the story of our awakening to the galactic mind is best understood by studying crop circles because the symbols integrate many worlds. The Maya say God, Hunab Ku, is movement and measure, which the circle makers are demonstrating. We achieved galactic synchronization in 1987, galactic resonance in 1998, and we will be offered galactic citizenship in 2012, provided that by this time we have attained multidimensional consciousness as a species. Since 1998, we have become resonant with very high frequencies, and by 2000, the circle makers started to deliver circles based on the laws of trigonometry and spherical geometry. As we proceed on this quest, you might be wondering why most of the circles appear in England and not in Mexico. The P's say that the central vortex of patriarchal ignorance is located in England, while the Mexican people already know what is coming. Also, the Salisbury Plain has very unusual geomantic features, which have been utilized for consciousness enhancement by humans for thousands of years in sacred sites such as Stonehenge. The most comprehensive and insightful book I have read to date on the circles is Silva's Secrets in the Fields. Based on his review of the scientific research that has accumulated over the past 20 years, and his study of human interaction with the circles, Silva theorizes that the circles are activating Earth's power grid and sacred sites. I will summarize his theories on circle making, and I will also compare some of Silva's conclusions to my own experiences. I will focus on what the circle makers are communicating about the Mayan calendar, since it ends in less than 10 years and because crop circles are intimately connected with it. The circle makers are transmitting geometric codes that inspire us to open our consciousness according to the timing of the calendar. Contemplation of Solcan, the Mayan god of time who gifted the Maya with the calendar, is quintessential mystical bliss. The Maya come into our dimension during special times to share the light with us. Receiving it tests our human ability to wake up when the universe tells us we are ready. How crop circles are made. When it is time for the circle makers to communicate with Earth, a great tube of light comes down from high in the sky, which is visible for only a few seconds. These tubes have been seen and photographed a few times, and Silva has a good photo of one in his book. 7. The tubes usually appear between 2:00 a.m. and 4:00 a.m. when everybody is asleep, which is also when Earth's magnetic field is the lowest. The walls of these tubes could be visible because they are formed by the outside edges of billions of vibrating spirals of light that form the golden mean, the math ratio that determines spiral action. See Chapter 6. The circle makers actually create physical imprints in the fields, which is what all the uproar is about. Since the same geometry can easily be seen in shells and in skeletons, no one should be surprised. The visibility of these tubes of light and the numerous spirals in crop circles are analogues to the visibility of spirals in nature. Materialization occurs by the spin or motion of spirals, and the crop circles are material things. Once the great force is drawn down to Earth, the tubes of light imprint a crop circle where it enters a plane, the field of crops, where 2D interfaces with the curvature of the surface. The actual circle is made in seconds. 8. Scientists are penetrating the deeper mysteries of the golden mean these days, as the circle makers are constructing ever more complex expressions of it. Figure 10.2. Figure 10.2 Sunflower 2000 Woodborough Hill, near Alton Priors, Wiltshire, England. The golden mean spiral spins energy from one state to another by shifts in frequency ranges. 9. Simple geometric forms, such as a circle or square, vibrate at lower frequencies, while more complex forms vibrate faster. Each frequency range generates different geometric patterns, which explains how there can be so many designs that are becoming increasingly complex. 10. Scientific tests show that there has been an exponential increase in high-frequency circles since 2000, and it is more difficult to test them using current technology. I believe this rising complexity is in direct proportion to human awakening. These extraordinary circles prove that hoaxing represents only a small percentage of them, although hoaxing in 2003 appears to have returned with a vengeance. 11. To summarize, the tube of light is a mass of spiral energy that enters Earth from the sky. The geometry of the mass is determined by frequency ranges, and the design of the circle reflects the spherical geometry of the frequency ranges. The crop circles show creation in action, and the nine-dimensional system sheds much light on these processes, just as they suggest a context for superstring theory. When 8D light steps down into sound in 7D, sound occurs in the tubes of light. Many people have heard this and recorded it. Often, high-frequency trilling is reported, while some describe exquisite celestial chords. 12. These sounds are usually just below or higher than the human audible range, and the ability to hear them passes in and out. Sometimes it is very irritating. In the circle where the light tube penetrates the field of crops, the sound generates a vibrating sphere of light, in which a resonating plane of light energy then creates the crop circle. This is a classic example of the transmission from 8D light to 7D sound to 6D geometry. Those who know the laws of spherical geometry can use the planar geometry on the field, the crop circle imprint, to deduce the geometry of the sphere. Figure 10.4. The higher dimensions of the tube of light generating a sphere in a field. Fanciful adaptation from Secrets in the Fields, Freddie Silva, p. 219. To visualize how the crop circle forms, it may be helpful to imagine a plane of light forming within the center of the vibrating sphere of light. The sphere rests within the tube of light, with half the sphere above the ground and half the sphere below the ground. Gravity and magnetism draw this sphere down into Earth, and the 2D geomantic fields attract it to its specific location. Having read the chapters on 1D and 2D, you probably have a richer sense of the world beneath Earth's surface. You probably can imagine all the dense energy in the part of the sphere that is below Earth's surface. Salisbury Plain in Wessex, England, sits on top of one of the largest chalk aquifers on Earth. 13. Chalk is piezoelectric and is interlaced with magnetite, the little iron slivers that are used to demonstrate the shape of magnetic fields. Figure 10.5. This circle, the magnetic grid 2000, depicts a perfect magnetic field, which showed Colin Andrews, a key researcher working on magnetic grid analysis, that he was on the right track. 14. This circle appeared the day after he was up all night thinking about magnetic grids. Because of the chalk aquifer, Salisbury Plain has a very low magnetic field, which makes it the world's largest conductor of electricity. This level of conductivity probably creates the means for the geometric design of the sphere to bend and weave the wheat or rapeseed plants into a specific design on the surface. Silva thinks that reversed magnetic fields of varying frequencies bend and weave the plants, and remember that the circles are made in seconds, basically instantaneously. 15. Figure 10.5. Magnetic Grid 2000, Avebury near Truslow, Wiltshire, England. On a parallel track, scientists have been investigating physical manifestation. They think that matter may form when energy is spun from a vacuum where consciousness has been integrated with gravitational forces and electromagnetic fields. 16. There are other fascinating reasons why so many crop circles occur on Salisbury Plain. Around 5,000 years ago, the megalithic people constructed complex systems of stone circles, cairns, dolmens, and henges all over the low magnetic field in this part of England, and eventually they built Stonehenge. Like Karnak, this megalithic technology marks the places where 2D energy is the most potent. Wessex is unusual today because it still has the original field divisions on the rolling hills over the aquifer, which may be enhancing the 2D energy. This is one of the few places left where plants still thrive within potent telluric energy fields, and the circle makers seem to need to use this activated biological field. The fields of Salisbury Plain are the perfect painter's canvas for the circle makers, who may be commenting about modern farming by emphasizing the ancient field system. In the mid-1980s, I received images of a Druid initiation in the Avebury complex and of Silbury Hill being first constructed. This seems to have caused my mind to become deeply involved with the circle makers. 17. Yet, my first insight about the circle makers came out of an experience I had in Egypt with my teacher, Hakim, in 1994. Back then, few people understood much about crop circles, and I was very curious about them. In March of that year, while leading a group to sacred sites in Egypt, Hakim and I were walking between Saqqara and the desert, and we were talking about the ancient days in Egypt. Hakim, an Egyptian archaeologist, preferred to say little about what he knew, and he would listen to see if I intuited anything myself. If I did figure something out, then he would share his great knowledge. 18. I was looking out at the rolling sand dunes, and through a time warp I saw a vision of golden fields of wheat. When this happens, the air in front of me becomes a screen showing a movie of the past or future. Since Saqqara is such a major sacred site close to the Great Pyramid on the edge of the desert, I asked Hakim if the hieroglyphs first came here as crop circles on fields where the desert now exists. In those days, I did not know that 5,000 years ago this area was rich cropland due to more rainfall. Hakim answered by telling me that the hieroglyphs were a divine language given to the ancient Egyptians to accelerate their consciousness. They arrived on the fields in this location, and the Pyramid of Unas was built for their first inscriptions. Archaeologists controlled by the elite say that suddenly the hieroglyphs appeared from nowhere around 5,500 years ago. They may be more accurate than they realize. Unlike the British today, the Egyptians were ecstatic to see divine revelation arriving on the fields. The sacred symbols were transcribed in limestone, even though they first were passed from one initiate to the next, possibly for thousands of years. Maybe someday a similar monument in stone inscribed with the authentic crop circles will be erected as close as possible to Avebury Circle and Silbury Hill in Wiltshire, part of Wessex. Wessex still has fertile fields, while the land near the Great Pyramid and Saqqara is now a desert. Thus southern England is receiving the majority of the circles. The circles are intimately involved with the megalithic system, which was built to enhance telluric energy when people were much more in touch with Earth and used geomancy to align their consciousness with these forces. 19. Since Earth responds to stellar patterns, the arrangement of the megalithic system was also determined by alignments to star patterns. The stars are related to human awakenings by specific cycles, such as the Mayan calendar. The stone alignments and the crop circles charge telluric forces, enhance Earth's energy grid, and activate human consciousness. The grid is a geodetic system that exists because of water flow and crustal geological characteristics that change by the cycles in the sky. As a net of lines and nodal crossings where energy flows, it is very much like the blood veins and lymphatic systems of our bodies. Megalithic monuments are like a system of acupuncture needles that moves energy through the telluric realm, the Earth's blood, and crop circles are charging this system. These days, in most places, Earth is devitalized because geomancy has lapsed, yet geomancy is how humans can interface with the telluric as it responds to stellar cycles. For the most part in the West, people have not interacted with Earth at the sacred sites for hundreds of years because of religious repression. See Chapter 2. Christianity taught that being in tune with Earth invites possession by the devil, which in turn taught people to fear Earth. However, this link is our access to higher intelligences that can interface with us and encourage us to become free people again. Western religions have enslaved the people, and religious and government authorities are debunking the crop circles because the information in the crop circles threatens their agendas. Regardless of the current human oppression, the circle makers are re-energizing the geodetic grid, and their work is enhanced when individuals interact with them. This awakening is not a repeat of the megalithic experience. For us, the new geomancy is being expressed by light, sound, and geometry, since we will be responding to galactic resonance as a species by 2012. The megalithic awakening was solar because humans needed to learn how to deal with axial tilting. 20 and stone was the ideal material thousands of years ago because it resonates with the iron core crystal, which pulses at 40 Hz. These low-frequency ranges have been healing human cellular memory of deep trauma from the ancient catastrophic experiences 11,500 years ago. This cycle is completing itself. This activation of the telluric realm and our 3D world is toppling world religions by drawing power abusers into sexual abuse. We are recovering from deep trauma and learning how to unify our consciousness so we can be masters of the 4D archetypal realm of feelings and the collective consciousness. When people in every country are involved, the global elite's pyramid systems crash. Our relationship with Earth grows now in our hearts as the galaxy spins us wider and faster. We are vibrating with some extremely high frequencies, like the frequencies generated by great gurus and spiritual teachers. If you watch ordinary people, they have no idea what is happening, and their biggest challenge is to stay in their bodies. These are the same frequencies seen when Christ transfigured and became white light in front of his disciples as described in the Bible. He showed the light to show us all the way. People handle these complex resonances better when they understand what is happening, especially when repressed trauma gets stirred up. The crop circles are showing us a path through the darkness in the middle of mind-boggling change at the end of the Mayan calendar. The Dome of Light and the Druid. I first connected with the Circle Makers while doing past life regression sessions in 1982-83 in Chicago. Such past lives, whether they be lives in the past, parallel existences, or genetic or racial memory, are certainly fragments of my operative consciousness, since once I retrieved them, I changed in current time. I recorded these early sessions 21 in Eye of the Centaur, a visionary guide into past lives, the first book of my Mind Chronicles trilogy. As you can see in Figure 10.6, a druid around 600 AD is using his hands to generate energy in a standing stone. He is standing in the sanctuary, near Avebury Circle, which is connected to the main complex by a long winding avenue that once consisted of hundreds of pairs of huge standing stones. No stones remain today in the sanctuary, yet a few still remain along the avenue. Point 2. The druid is activating telluric energy in the sanctuary stone circle by using his consciousness to vibrate the stones to alter their frequencies. He does this by feeling the telluric energy below the circle in his body, while he hears the stellar vibratory pattern in his higher brain centers, the hypothalamus and pineal gland. Using his own body frequencies as a connector between earth and sky, he feels the lower frequencies like quaking waves and the higher ones like very high frequency tones. When his higher brain centers feel like they are spinning, he sends energy out through his hands into the stones, and a spherical dome of white light, half in the ground and half above, forms within the circle of stones. For a few seconds, an exquisite celestial sound permeates the sphere, like the sweet elixir of divine consciousness in his brain. He is ecstatic as his body flows with earth density and sky toning, and he charges his body with electricity. This causes piezoelectric flashing in the crystals in the stones, and currents of snake-like energy shoot down the avenue and into Avebury Circle. The sanctuary seemed to be an electrical switch for Avebury Circle, and experiencing it altered my whole neurological system. I experienced this very explicit regression in 1983 when I knew nothing about Avebury, light technology, spherical geometry, domes of light, or electromagnetic energy in our bodies. Wherever this druid scene came from, I experienced wild sensations in my own body. This was so amazing to me as a wife and mother of 4 that I did not want to lose this subtle and intriguing thread in my body from the past, especially since the American culture around me was so vacuous. I guarded myself from ridicule or judgment from others by not discussing these revelations with anyone outside my immediate family. My therapist specialized in retrieving themes and initiations from past lives. Then he used the material his clients retrieved to help them utilize the information in their current lives. He believes that ancient cultures did this to progress instead of regress, and judging by what's going on now, he is right. During this delicate time, I did not consult outside sources on the Druids because I sensed that this regression probably contained more real information about the Druids and Avebury than any modern source. Before publishing this material, I researched archaeology, geology, and topology of Wessex and the global megalithic system. While I was doing this work from 1982 through 1985, simple crop circles were occurring more frequently around the Avebury complex and the sanctuary, but I did not hear about them until 1986. Soon after the Druid regression, I accessed a lifetime as a young Avebury priestess from around 5,200 years ago, and my connections with Avebury took a quantum leap. Her clan was the Owl clan, which had served Avebury since the Paleolithic era, as the Maya serve their sacred sites today. Her life offers clues on plants as keys to dimensional access, one of the great mysteries with crop circles. 23. Figure 10.7 Owl clan priestess in 3200 BC bringing sod into the chalk chamber in the center of Silbury Hill, Avebury, Wiltshire, England. Drawing by Judabeth Hunter. The Owl clan keepers of Avebury were in tune with a sacred stone placed there by their ancestors thousands of years before the megalithic era. These ancestors buried a river-tossed egg stone to mark this as a sacred center by the river Cunnet, which flows out of a spring dedicated to the goddess. The white quartz stone was brought from a river flowing into the sea where it was polished in the gravel, and the same stones cover the face of Newgrange Temple. When the Owl clan buried it many years ago, there was a land ridge between Wessex and the continent. Her clan still retained this memory, and now it is 3200 BC according to the cycles in the stars. A resonator, Silbury Hill, must be constructed to enhance the power of the sacred stone, which guards female procreative powers. In the illustration, the priestess began the project by building a chamber made of cut chalk blocks that was initially open to the sky. She carries in blocks of soil teeming with moist living plants, while a man raises energy elsewhere in front of a great standing stone. Later, they sealed the chamber with chalk on the top, like an igloo. After this, Silbury Hill was constructed over the chalk dome with layers of carefully chosen stones, chalk, and mud to enhance earth frequencies. As seen from the sky, Silbury Hill's form is a pregnant goddess. 24. It emits Owl clan records that by symbols announce the time of human awakening. I could not imagine what this session meant, yet when I heard about the circles appearing in the fields all around Silbury Hill, I began to understand what was happening, and it changed me. I became absolutely imbued with the urgency of Earth's ecological crisis. All I knew was I had to get to Avebury as soon as possible. Being mostly Scots-Irish by birth and only 1/8 Cherokee, perhaps I could connect with Earth in the old country, too. Jerry and I went to Avebury in 1986, which is when I discovered in the site museum that archaeologists had tunneled into the center of Silbury Hill looking for the tomb of some ancient chieftain. Instead of finding buried treasure, they found a simple chalk chamber filled with living plants and organisms in the center. Arriving in Avebury, we marveled at its deep earth resonance within the circling stones and the openness to the sky that invites all the stars. Like the circle in the sanctuary, the Avebury henge holds the edge of a great spherical dome of light. Silbury Hill is alluring as it projects geometric lines of light that interweave and wave outward. At the same time, a magnetized green etheric force sucks into the ground through the Owl clan stone beneath its chalk dome. Early crop circle researchers were around in the fields and in the pubs, and I wondered if the circles were Owl clan symbols. We just meditated with the stones as if they were grandfathers and grandmothers telling us stories. Today I have become certain that the main henge and stone circles are drawing the circle makers close to the whole complex, and they move miles out from it through Wessex, especially around Stonehenge. Since a high percentage of each year's crop circles arrive here, Avebury would appear to be a consciousness center for the West through 2012, just as it was as long as 8,000 years ago. This force can break down the Anglo-American pyramid system that grips our present world like an Eastern despot. The Western logical mind requires too much proof before being willing to respect the unseen world, yet human interaction with the circle makers is changing this. More about harmonic convergence. During my regression research, I was also the co-owner and editor for Bear & Company in Santa Fe, and I also began to do ceremonial work around the world. I looked for books that could help prepare people for the coming changes, especially after August 1987. This time of galactic synchronization was secretly awaited in indigenous circles, and Tony Shearer had announced the dates in his book Lord of the Dawn, Quetzalcoatl and the Tree of Life, which was first published in 1971. In November 1986, the visionary artist José Argüelles walked into my office with the Mayan Factor, Path Beyond Technology, which describes the full powers of the Mayan calendar and emphasized the importance of August 1987. We rushed it to press by spring of 1987, so there would be enough time to create various campaigns to publicize the need for worldwide meditations on harmonic convergence. In February 1987, José shared pre-ceremonies with a group that included Jerry and myself in the courtyard of the Nine Lords at Palenque. During the ceremonies, supernova 1987A exploded in the Large Magellanic Cloud, and in the few seconds of its death, it released more energy than all the Milky Way stars in a year. This supernova explosion also had great significance for Earth because for the first time stellar neutrinos versus solar, first observed in 1967, were detected roughly 3 hours before the first optical sighting of supernova 1987A.25. This event brought together previous theories and speculations into a complete and correct description of neutrinos and supernovas and their cosmic implications. Neutrinos, weak force particles, have no significant attraction to other matter except on cosmic scales. Matter is completely transparent to neutrinos, and they are passing through Earth and us all the time, usually from the Sun. The more deeply that photons, M particles, penetrate matter, the more they harm living things. Neutrinos and photons both have the same dual nature of particle and wave, yet neutrinos are not made of oscillating M fields. Since the optical sighting was after the neutrino detection, human interaction with the neutrinos was faster than the speed of light, yet nobody has any idea what they do to our brains and bodies. For me, neutrinos were cosmic messengers from supernova 1987A. A few months later, White Eagle Tree, my Cherokee medicine brother, and I helped lead the ceremonies for harmonic convergence at Teotihuacan, north of Mexico City. Jerry and I brought our son Matthew with us, who was multidimensional from birth, and what he saw the night before the convergence was a direct link to the circle makers. He went out near midnight on August 16 and climbed the Pyramid of the Sun to study the sky. Around 3 a.m., as he walked down the avenue approaching the citadel, he saw a rising light to the left of the long avenue between the Pyramid of the Moon and the citadel, just as he passed by the front of the Pyramid of the Sun. Sensing he could interact with it mentally, he held his ground and breathed deeply as he felt the potential energy disturbances that often come with high-frequency transmissions. He saw a huge, vibrating, complex geometric sphere of light rise slowly out of the ground and shoot straight up into the sky. It was humming, pulsating, and seemed organic. When he woke me up shortly thereafter, he was glowing with very high frequencies. The sphere of light he saw was very much like the ones described earlier by Freddy Silva and the Druid. This is how things work when extremely high frequencies interact with Earth's surface. We cannot see the whole 9-dimensional vertical column, but some can see the sphere it generates. Most other people in the area probably could not see the sphere, just as most do not see the spheres at Avebury. They vibrate at frequencies faster than those in our dimension, and only people who can detect the vibrations in their higher head centers can sometimes see them. Synchronistically, in August 1987, there was a huge explosion of crop circles in Wessex, and the researchers reported huge magnetic disturbances in them. This was when I became sure the communications from the circle makers are progressing by the cycles of the Mayan calendar. In my book Chiron, Rainbow Bridge Between the Inner and Outer Planets 1987, I explored the wounded healer complex ruled by Chiron, the newly discovered planetary body. This informs us that systemic and permanent healing of trauma complexes can be accomplished by means of accessing and clearing the originating basis. Chiron sensitized me to unresolved trauma, and I began to see varying energy frequencies in people's bodies that greatly reduce their comfort zones in 3D. Trauma complexes vibrate at low frequencies, while ecstatic states vibrate at high frequencies, such as the Druid charging the stone or Matthew seeing the sphere of light. During this time I was doing past life regression work with Chris Griscom of the Light Institute in Galisteo, New Mexico. Chris remarked that most people's emotional bodies vibrate at lower frequencies than their physical bodies, which is abnormal. As a result, they are not fully present in their physical bodies, which greatly diminishes energy access. We are designed to be fully located in our bodies at our lowest frequency where we access energy from many dimensions. Crop circle researchers were offering various theories and publishing them, public curiosity was rising, and the circles became more complex. When I was working with Griscom in 1988 and 1989, we often noticed that we both could feel what the circle makers were communicating. Heart of the Christos, the resulting book, was published in 1989, just as I became more deeply involved in ceremonial teaching. The crop circles of 1990 seemed to be responding to the 1989 Mayan initiatic ceremonies described at the beginning of this chapter. As you can see from these images, see figure 10.8, these are pictograms, the same symbols picked into rock surfaces and painted on drums and pots for thousands of years in the Americas. Pictograms are a sacred language that represents specific ideas, such as energy radiating off two connecting circles in the illustration. This language is understood at the intuitive level, and it is revealed at the conscious level during auspicious times by indigenous scribes. By 1990, the circle makers were part of our ceremonies to heal Earth, and we began translating them when appropriate. In 1991, some astonishing crop circles appeared, including the Barbary Castle tetrahedron, more pictograms, a broken DNA sequence, and even a perfect Mandelbrot set, which is the most complex computer-generated fractal. This was the first summer I experienced direct contact with the circle makers in 3D. Figure 10.8 Native American pictograms that resemble crop circles. B. From a selection of crop circles from 1991. C. Paintings in Mogollon Red style near reserve. Concentric circle is 6 cm in diameter. Photo by Carl Kernberger. D. From a selection of crop circles from 1970 to 1990. E. Blanco Canyon, Largo Drainage, NM. Photo by Curtis Schafsma. F. A crop circle formed in 1990 in Bratton. 11. Communicating with the circle makers. Barbary Castle, 1991. During a hot Santa Fe morning on July 15, 1991, I was in my writing office drawing symbols to help me start the third book of my trilogy, Signet of Atlantis, and I drew this odd symbol, figure 11.1. It felt like it was Signet's energy field, so I began the book. Meanwhile, Eye of the Centaur and Heart of the Christos were being translated into German, and I was in communications with my German publisher, Lutz Croft of Zweitausendains. On July 17, Croft faxed to me an image of the Barbary Castle crop circle, which had appeared in England during the night of July 16, when the power went out in a nearby military base and town. 1. He was very excited, since the Barbary Castle circle expresses complex tetrahedral geometry. Figure 11.1 Author's drawing of symbol similar to the Barbary Castle tetrahedron. Considering that I cannot draw, I was stunned to see that what I had scribbled on the morning of July 15, a half-day before the glyph appeared in Wessex, strongly resembled the Barbary Castle tetrahedron. See figure 10.1 for a comparison. Obviously, my mind was working with the same symbology. Croft seemed to have intuited this by spontaneously sending it. So, the Barbary Castle image is on the title page of Signet of Atlantis, which came out in 1992, and I first wrote about this synchronicity in Signet's introduction. Somehow my creative mind was flowing with the circle makers, although I was not paying much attention to them yet. I thought it was incredible that I would draw this symbol just before it appeared as a crop circle in Wessex. I did not understand the geometry, which I'd forgotten about since the 9th grade. In those days when somebody said, tetrahedral, I smiled knowingly while I had no idea what they were talking about. In 1991 and 1992, Jerry and I were teaching in Bali, Mexico, Egypt, and Crete, and we could not get back to England. I continued to be mystified by Barbary Castle, and then finally in 1993, Power Places Tours invited me to go to England for a crop circles conference with some of the key researchers, including Colin Andrews and John Michel. 2. I was also offered the golden opportunity to teach with John Michel for a week after the conference. John has been an avid crop circle researcher from the beginning, a master teacher of sacred geometry, and the author of many wonderful books. My job was to lead ceremonies with the students at sacred sites, such as Glastonbury Tor and various stone circles out on Cornwall, and then John and I were expected to dialogue with the students. When I arrived, John and I had not met before, and I was sure he thought he'd gotten stuck for the week with a typical American New Age airhead. I went about my work with the students, we had some great dialogues that at least indicated I'd done my megalithic homework, and then John retired with a book whenever ceremonies happened. The farther we traveled down into Cornwall, the more curious he got about what we were doing, but he stayed away. The last ceremony was on a high cliff overlooking a churning gorge near King Arthur's castle and Merlin's cave at Tintagel, where my medicine brother Heoka Merrifield was to do a pipe ceremony with me. The energy of our group was very joyful, and I noticed that John was curious about Heoka's panther cloak. So I said, "John, this is the last ceremony. Please join us, we would be so honored." He smiled and sat down on a rock amidst the students. Heoka smoked his pipe while I led a guided meditation into the center of Earth. Eventually, we all came out of it, and John was still sitting on the rock in a totally altered state. We waited quietly for a while, since a fall into the gorge would be deadly, and then we woke him up. His eyes fluttered, and he said, "Thank you, finally I have experienced real meditation." This was interesting because I often find that people who have never known good meditation often have powerful experiences if they are first taken into Earth. John Michel, of course, is a skilled mental traveler, another form of meditation. After the work was finished, John and I enjoyed a great evening in the pub with some students, and in vino veritas John said one of the most meaningful things anyone has ever said to me. He said, from notes I took that night, "You must read my 12 Tribe Nations that I wrote with Christine Rohn. In it we show that Wessex and other centers in England are sacred centers divided up into 12 spokes on a wheel. Each section is a district under a sign of the zodiac, and the people in each district express the characteristics of their sign as their clan. Each clan maintains its character by having appropriate ceremonies and mystery plays while using the right music to preserve the land's enchantment. When the sun is in a certain section, Aries, for example, the Aries clan would go round the whole wheel and entertain the other clans to teach them about the ram." After working so hard with Christine to describe this sacred landscape, often I wished I could be there just once long ago during one of those ceremonies. Oh, to hear the music just once. You and your group have given me the greatest gift. During this week as I watched your group, I realized you were doing exactly what the ancient people did to preserve the character of the sacred land. Thank you. Then a friendship began, and John has helped me more than any other researcher, other than Freddie Silva, to comprehend the crop circles. From 1992 through 1994, there was a lot of tension in Wessex. The media allied with the hoaxers and downplayed the real truth about the phenomena to keep the public from realizing the importance of the circles, while serious researchers were outrageously debunked and harassed. The circle makers outwitted the hoaxers and their media lackeys by creating circles that no human being could have ever made, especially those laid down in less than a minute. Only a fool, a lackey, or a liar could think otherwise. In 1993, the circles were so complex that open-minded people could be sure most crop circles were real. Many of the 1994-95 circles were very astronomical, with circles and crescents around planets and moons, and were messages about the state of our solar system. Neptune conjuncted Uranus, i.e., lined up in the same place in the sky in 1993, which occurs every 180 years. Neptune conjunct Uranus initiates a whole new cycle of spiritual awakening to 2173 AD, and the circle makers celebrated this change. To see many images, you will need to get Silva's book, Books by Others, or go to the internet, since there have been at least 3,500 genuine crop circles since 1985. Figure 11.2a 1994 crop circle that seems to depict the 22 fragments of comet Shoemaker-Levy crashing into Jupiter. The circles also crafted images of two monumental astronomical events. Figure 11.2. In July 1994, comet Shoemaker-Levy crashed into Jupiter and pummeled its surface with 22 hot fragments. Many people on Earth awaited the event and then watched it on television, but few realize that some crop circles that summer actually depicted the Jupiterian catastrophe. Jupiter's trauma reminded the public of times in the past when our planet has been hit by asteroids or comets, thus this event awakened hidden fear. In 1995, Comet Hale-Bopp was bright in the sky all summer and fall, and again the circles that year were predominantly astronomical, see Figure 11.3. All this affected me greatly because I'm an astrologer, and by late 1994 the Pleiadians came through me much more forcefully than ever before. Until this time, they had been guides who appeared sporadically, I had no alliance with them, and at the time I wished they'd just go away. Now that this present book has come forth, I am grateful for their forceful, urgent communications. I think the Pleiadians and Circle Makers are connected in some way, and I think together they will debunk the elite spinmasters by 2012. Figure 11.3 Astronomical circle in 1995 that suggests the Circle Makers were depicting our solar system during the summer when Comet Hale-Bopp was visible nightly. The Pleiadians and the Circle Makers. From 1992 through 1994, the military, government, and media were working together to debunk the phenomena, but why would they bother? Some of you may remember the Doug and Dave Show, a pair of beer-soaked hoaxers who occasionally flattened the fields with ropes and boards to create circles, which the media immediately displayed on the evening news. Considering the spiritual importance of the circles, the battles over fake and real circles and the disturbances in the fields by the fakes were distracting and heartbreaking. The Circle Makers virtually never injure animals, researchers, or plants, and their art is truly inspiring. Some wondered if the Circle Makers were extraterrestrials, possibly like the ones who reportedly abduct people. The way I come to terms with such thorny questions is to observe what comes into my life, and I have not seen any green men from Mars, yet. In November 1994, as I reported earlier in this book, my ears began ringing incessantly, like having a telephone ringing in my head. Somebody was dialing me up, and I wondered if it was the Circle Makers, the Pleiadians, or both. The resonance felt familiar, and it felt like totally non-physical higher dimensional beings of light. For me, contact with the Pleiadians has never been about flying saucers and little green men. I called together a small group of people who wanted to ask questions of the Pleiadians while I channeled them. We taped the channelings, and the material for the Pleiadian agenda was completed by March 1995. This moved me into total resonance with the Circle Makers, and I believe that a number of the 1995 circles are a direct response to the Pleiadian agenda. The Circle Makers may be higher dimensional frequencies of the Pleiadians, who are very fifth-dimensional. Since 5D is the opening of the divine heart and the Pleiadians are a loving expression of this divine love, the more we can see how this works, the better. The 9-dimensional model and the Circle Makers. Figure 11.4 Barbary Castle Tetrahedron 1991 with addition of 9-dimensional dynamics. The Barbary Castle crop circle, Figure 11.4, is an expression of complex tetrahedral geometry. 3 strange circles form out of the tips of the triangle to create the tetrahedron's base, and within the base, the circle and 2 rings suggest the tetrahedral form by emphasizing the pyramid's raised point. Tetrahedrons are made of 4 equilateral triangles with 1 triangle on the flat with the 3 faces rising to the center point, and they are the primal bond of matter. The 3 circles form out of the top of the pyramid and radiate down, forming a cone. The large circle in the center is 1D through 3D, the second circle beyond is 4D through 6D, and the outer circle is 7D through 9D. As numbered in the illustration, Circle 1 with the line from 1D into its center is 1D through 3D, with the core indicated by the center point, and 3D is the simple circle. Circle 2 is 4D through 6D with 6 morphic divisions that are moving by the wavy lines, and Circle 3 shows higher dimensional 7D through 9D level changes with 9D in the center ratcheting down to 3D, which connects back into the tetrahedron. This perfectly models the 9 dimensions based on the principle of threes, 3 plus 3 plus 3 equals 9. Figure 11.5 Ratchet Crop Circle 1995 near Stockbridge Down, Hampshire, England. In other words, the Barbary Castle tetrahedron has taught me about the dimensional structure of the 9 dimensions, yet it is the very circle I drew in 1991 before it appeared in the fields. The three circles in the tetrahedron show how the dimensions are nested and offer a sense of spin by the rising cone. The spinning circles increase in complexity by spin or torque, which may be the circle makers sending information about three different speeds of light. The three circles at the points of the triangle show three levels of how motion and spin activate matter out of geometric form. The third ratcheting circle intrigued me, because I sensed there was much meaning in it, and as you can see by my crude drawing in Figure 11.1, I could not express it myself. Figure 11.6 The Pythagorean lambda, which shows how frequencies accelerate by octaves. From Secrets in the Fields, Freddie Silva, p. 211. The circle makers made another version of the ratchet in 1995, see Figure 11.5. Back in 1995, I did not understand the higher three dimensions, and I thought this ratchet might clear my own fog, but I was stumped. Freddie Silva has figured out these 1995 ratchets based on Barbara Hero's research on the lambda, 3, a diagram that dates back to the Egyptian mystery schools, Figure 11.6. The Pythagorean lambda exactly defines the relationships between harmonics in music and mathematical ratios. It expresses the principle of octaves and shows how frequencies accelerate, see Chapter 7. It is a circular matrix that contains all the ascending harmonic proportions, and it offers wonderful feelings for the complexity and mechanics of ascension. The 1995 ratchet glyph has 8 little circles outside the circle around the ratchet, just to make sure everybody knows we're talking about octaves. The circle makers were making sure the researchers would be led to the lambda, which explains how octaves ascend by mathematical ratios. The lambda also explains the 3 higher dimensions of the 9-dimensional form, and it shows how wavelengths 9D light vibrate by octaves 8D order, creating harmonics that form 7D sound. That is, by showing how sound ascends by octaves to light, the ratchet translates how divine intelligence speaks. Finally, that one is solved. Figure 11.7 Cow Down, 1995, near Andover, Hampshire, England. When the heptagonal geometry glyph, Cow Down, appeared at Cow Down in June 1995, it felt like radar signals from the Pleiadians calling to me. This feeling was visceral and funny because the Ps always talk about how they are the cow people who come down. When I saw it, I realized it is a version of a symbol the Ps gave to me while I was writing the Pleiadian agenda, which is the second illustration in the introduction in this book. Compare Figure 11.7 with Figure I2 in the introduction. My symbol represents the creation of matter by electromagnetism in 9 dimensions, and I used this version, see Figure 11.10, in a lecture at the 1997 Power Places Tours Crop Circles conference to speculate on how crop circles are major agents of change and are awakening multidimensional consciousness. Freddie Silva amplified this connection by pointing out that researcher Paul Vigay registered radio interference over a telegraph hill glyph, and he sketched the path of it in his notebook. Point 4. The cow down glyph also expresses his drawing. Thus both researchers had detected that cow down was an expression of electromagnetic forces and how they are involved in created matter. The cow down glyph appeared 5 days after I got my symbol from the Pleiadians, and 7 days after Vigay's drawing in his notebook. As analyzed by Silva, the hidden geometry of the Barbary Castle tetrahedron is pentagonal, hexagonal, and heptagonal, Figure 11.8. The art itself, from Freddie Silva's computer drawings, is exquisite and mind-expanding, and in light of tetrahedral geometry, it shows that cow down is exhibiting some electromagnetic keys. By applying heptagonal geometry to cow down, see Figure 11.9, as well as to Barbary Castle, our consciousness is encouraged to think of sevens. Of course, 7D is the world of sound that creates geometry, and Silva comments that 7 represents the geometry of the soul. Point 5. Figure 11.8 Barbary Castle 1991 with pentagonal, hexagonal, and heptagonal geometry superimposed. From Secrets in the Fields, Freddie Silva, p. 188. Figure 11.9 Heptagonal geometry of cow down 1995. My first public interpretation of a crop circle was of cow down at the 1997 Crop Circle Conference at Salisbury, England, 6, and I will repeat it here, see Figure 11.10. I used dots and bars Mayan system instead of numbers for the 9 dimensions, hoping the circle makers would create something with it in 1997. The glyph exhibits the principle of 3 by 3 circles, and the ratchet shows how the energy accelerates electromagnetically from 1D through 9D. The inner circle is 1D 3D, the second 4D 6D, and the outer 7D 9D. The ratchet begins out of the 1D 3D circle, and the 4D ratchet breaks the 4D 6D circle. This explains how 1D and 2D telluric energy determines 3D, and it shows we are very overlaid by 4D forces. The 5D through 8D ratchets are in the area between the 4D 6D and 7D 9D circles, and the 9D ratchet melds into the outer circle. Cow down may demonstrate how 5D 9D expands. It offers a sense of how all dimensions are contained by energy, and there could not possibly be a more perfect expression of how the dimensions interrelate. Cow down may be showing us another way to conceptualize how higher dimensions enfold into the lower extended dimensions, which stretches our minds as do the Calabi-Yau spheres, see Figure 7.4. The geometric relationship between the outer and middle rings is an equilateral triangle and tetrahedron, which hark back to Barbary Castle, see Figure 11.4. The two combined show forms of the 9-dimensional dynamic, and they show how frequencies ascend by harmonics. It is fair to say that Barbary Castle appeared as a form in 1991 and that Cow Down activated it in 1995, which is typical circle maker humor. To better understand the 9-dimensional form, this circle shows how sound is a key to dimensional shifting. It graphically depicts how sound permeates all 9 dimensions. Another circle, see Figure 11.11, appeared in 1995 that offers more information about the highest dimensions, 8D and 9D, and it shows how opening the heart is the access to high dimensions. The small center circle represents the first 3 dimensions, and the tight circle close around it is 4D restricting 3D, or the emotional body vibrating too slowly. Way out beyond, the next circle, which is 8D, has 8 loops of darkness and 8 loops of light. It shows that working with darkness and light is the way to access the light. However, the light is often administered by religions in our times. Religions reduce subtle feelings, such as the play between dark and light, to dualized 4D collective mindsets. Magnificently, a large circle of light penetrates the outer circle, making space in 8D. The circle of light is a transformation of the smaller dark circle touching it, which is the 5D heart dimension of the string of 5 circles that propel the circle of light into 8D. This shows that the heart can always move us beyond belief systems that split us between dark and light. The way of the heart is always the most direct route, but Western mental complexity creates a need for many people to work with the 9-dimensional form. There are so many things I could say about other 1995 circles, since they are so deeply connected with the Pleiadian agenda, but we must move along. Coke fractals and the power of the divine mind. The circles in 1996 continued to lead the researchers on by making versions of complex fractals and DNA helixes. You've already had a taste of this in Chapter 8 with the presentation of the Julia set 1996 with its tetrahedral and spherical aspects superimposed. Consider it again in Figure 8.3, and imagine how many pages I could write about it as an expression of 3 plus 3 plus 3 equals 9, and the spiral is the golden mean. The first Julia set was a complex fractal 1,000 feet in diameter that appeared in broad daylight right next to Stonehenge, and the triple Julia set tripled the fractal spiral. What awesome beauty! Fractals are patterns that repeat their general features over a wide range of scales, so that without magnification, you see essentially the same pattern, such as the circles in the Julia sets. In Chapter 10, I mentioned testing links with the circle makers at the 1997 Power Places Tours Crop Circles Conference. I was so inspired by the circle makers that I wanted to see the world be inspired by them. The Western rational mind blocks most people from being able to appreciate these phenomena. I decided I could help spread the word by proving that humans can be in direct communication with the circle makers. As a lifelong astrologer, I am familiar with the pitfalls of proving that anything exists that can't be measured and verified. I created a symbol, presented it at a conference in public, showed students and some faculty how to imprint it in their brains, and then waited to see if a version or versions of my design appeared in the fields after that exercise. That would be a proof. And I would be taking all the risk if there were no response to our test, assuming the crop circle was too complex to be hoaxed. The perfect occasion was the 1997 Crop Circles conference at Salisbury, especially since I'd teach with John Michel again and he'd enjoy the experiment. There were 50 people plus a few faculty present for the experiment. Each person was handed a copy of the symbol, see figure 11.128. They studied it enough to get a visual memory, then I asked them to shut their eyes. They were asked to visualize the symbol in their third eye, the space between eyebrows, and then to transfer it onto an imaginary television screen at their medulla oblongata, the top of the spine at the back of the skull. The symbol is my design adapted for what the circle makers could do with the 9-dimensional form given to me by the Ps, the canopy of light. I sensed the circle makers might enjoy playing with it, since it is a double pyramid that shows how the human body receives and translates 9 dimensions. Figure 11.128 Barbara hand close symbol for the circle makers 1997, and B. The drawing of the canopy of light show how the Mayan dot and bar system reflects the 9 dimensions. Compare my original design to the design for the circle makers. Now here is what happened. Our group imprinted this symbol in the morning on July 31st. In 2002, while reading Freddie Silva's book, I realized that the first Coke fractal appeared July 23 beside Silbury Hill, but I didn't know about it at the conference, nor did anybody else as far as I know. It is intriguing that I drew the symbol for the conference handout around July 23, just before leaving the United States. I left the conference after asking the faculty or students to let me know if there was a response, and then I got barraged by faxes in mid-August. On August 8, the Milk Hill fractal was obviously a version of my symbol, see figure 11.13. Next came the strange attractor on Hawkpen Hill on August 18, see figure 11.14, and Colin Andrews, who was present for the experiment, faxed it to me and said he thought it was a clear response from the circle makers. The facts are, 2 Coke fractals that are an expression of my symbol appeared just after our group imprinted the design, and the strange attractor is an especially remarkable expression of our group thought form. It cannot be a hoax, since it had a reversed tetrahedral form woven into the standing pattern at the center, and its 204 circles each have a thin central clump. Figure 11.13 Milk Hill Coke fractal 1997 Milk Hill, Alton. Fractals are computer-generated images that are used to figure out where geometric order breaks down into chaos, such as stock market crashes and turbidity and flow in water, in order to understand changes of state. It was impossible to observe these complex dynamics before computers and the crop circles. The most complex fractal that has been created so far is called the Mandelbrot set. The circle makers created one with a 1,000-foot span in 1991 at Ickleton, near Cambridge. Since the circles have progressed by number and complexity in tandem with the proliferation and complexity of computers, there must be a relationship between how they both affect our minds. When Silva analyzed the body with the recessed, woven, raised tetrahedron of the Hawkpen Hill glyph, he saw that it exhibits the Pythagorean tetractys, which is a triangle tetrahedral face divided by 10 equidistant dots, and the dots also form a Platonic solid cube inside figure 11.15. According to Pythagoras and the esoteric traditions, the tetractys expresses the 10 words of God. 7. Since my design was originally inspired by the Pleiadian canopy of light, see the introduction, which shows how our bodies translate 9 dimensions of consciousness, then our bodies are the vehicles for the 10 words of God. The 10 dots show the musical ratios and the octaves as well as the 3 elements of light that govern creation itself. This geometry is most easily seen in this fractal, which also most resembles my symbol. Figure 11.15 The Pythagorean tetractys related to the strange attractor. From Secrets in the Fields, Freddie Silva, p. 186. The symbol is probably loaded with 10D information, which I still barely understand. Certainly, it also shows why people like to go bowling. The 10 bowling pins are the tetractys. Humor aside, the dots are circles emanating off the 12 pyramids of the strange attractor, see figure 11.14, with the big spray and rays off the 3 sides, are an expression of the 9-dimensional system and how it relates to changes of states in nature. Taking a central pyramid on one side, 6 circles for 6D run off the apex, 5 circles off each side, and again 5 circles off the rest of one side between the bases of the pyramids. At the 3 tips, which are 3 pyramids, there are only 4 circles surrounding them. Just as with Egyptian symbology and hieroglyphs, all this is totally intentional. This glyph is showing that the potent power of the 10D tetractys is held in stable form by the 6D morphic field lines in the center of the sides surrounded by the 5D fields of love. The spherical contact points on the tips are dormant momentarily to hold changes of state on the 10D vertical axis. Responding to our desire to know the universe better, the circle makers showed us how biological forms will undergo changes of state. Letting crop circles go, with Windmill Hill as a last example, it is time to investigate the healing aspects of the 9-dimensional system. In our activations, I primarily work with our minds, and Jerry works with our bodies and with practical applications of these teachings. 12. Living the 9 Dimensions by Jerry Clow. If you are like me, you probably have a lot of questions right now. Your mind is buzzing with all the information you have received, the 9 dimensions and their scientific implications, followed by explanations of how crop circles connect to these dimensions. This is kind of like making a super milkshake, putting in all sorts of ingredients and blending them together. Now it is time to let those ingredients settle, to fall into place in your everyday life. As I do this, part of me, my mind, wishes to find out how these dimensions relate to all the other mysterious levels, or realms, we hear about from esoteric sources, such as the Bardos Tibetan Buddhism, the 12 houses of the Duat ancient Egypt, and the Kabbalah mystical Judaism. John Beaulieu, see Chapter 7, has a video entitled, 7 Levels of a Still Point, and it too touches on this esoteric realm, sourced from the work of Dr. Randolph Stone, who studied Ayurvedic wisdom in his later years. We also hear of the experiences of those who venture into the ecstatic realms visualized while under the influence of hallucinogens such as ayahuasca, LSD, and peyote. Finally, I think of Barbara's favorite teacher, Dr. Felicitas Goodman, the anthropologist who discovered ecstatic trance, who refers to how various peak and out-of-body experiences are received at different brain maps within us. Are the 9 dimensions one such brain map? I wish I could give you, and myself, an easy road map through this maze of understandings. I want an easy mental answer, and there is none, other than this. These 9 dimensions, channeled through Barbara from the Pleiadians, are a clear contribution on their own. Perhaps all of the other systems and road maps were just preparation for this material. Perhaps these 9 dimensions are our future, replacing or complementing earlier understandings from the past. In any case, I will keep working on the connections to traditional or previous teachings, and I encourage each of you, from each of your own perspectives, to interweave these new understandings with those teachings you have received from other sources. Meanwhile, what's exciting about the teachings of the 9 dimensions is how alive this material is. Every time we teach it, we learn something new from our students. And as Barbara has shown, scientific discoveries continue to parallel these new awarenesses. Having said all this, I want to move into a formal and firm closing for this book. Much as I would assist a client off the table, I am going to work with you to bring you back to your feet, back to today, back to the now. For many of us, the big AHA is not enough. We get swallowed back up by our regular lives, and only rarely do we ponder the levels we found in ourselves during the time together. So even for those of you who have already gotten it, and especially for those of you who, like me, are still integrating the work into your daily life, let me describe a helpful process for bringing the 9 dimensions home. Stabilizing yourself. This process begins with a passage in a favorite book of mine. I discovered it during my classes with Matthew Fox, the former Dominican priest who embraced the mystical tradition within the church and originally founded Bear and Company. Fox is an Eckhartian scholar, Meister Eckhart, ca. 1260–1328, and was the first spiritual teacher to bring this mystic's multidimensional work to the attention of spiritual seekers within, and outside, the church. This little but powerful book is entitled Meditations with Meister Eckhart, and it is one of the first books we published at Bear. We were encouraged to read it by candlelight, in the spirit of how it was written. My favorite passage from Eckhart is a question and an answer. What did the stable hand do when he had seen the face of God? He returned to the stable. And that is what we do every time we have an ecstatic experience, a mind opening, a big AHA, we return to our stable. When I first heard these words, I was content just to get directions for what to do next. Today, having committed myself to the healer's path, I like the fact that in these words we have a place that is stable, and a place of great fertility and power, from the rich nutrients in the manure and the vitality of the horse. So, like the stable hand, having just walked through a minefield of ideas, return to your stable, to your place of being stable. If your home is not stable, see what is making it unstable and make it stable. Your home is a direct reflection of your own body, of your own stability. A home can be a van, a tent, a mansion, all are worthless if they are not stable, and priceless if they are. From what you learned in the class of this book, all these sit on terra firma, la tierra madre, on earth, all are subject to gravity, as you are, and all connect to the iron core crystal pulsating at Earth's center. Now, your body. When was the last time you considered your feet, your hips, your shoulders? Are you stable? Are you walking around, sitting around, in a stable body? If not, what can you do about it? First, you can become aware of it. Look at yourself in the mirror. Is one shoulder higher than the other, one lower than the other? Touch your hips as you look in the mirror. Does one hip appear to ride a little higher than the other? What happens when you lie down? Are your feet even, or is one leg longer than the other? This is structure, and we kid ourselves by thinking we can go around with a structure that is out of alignment. What would happen to a building standing that way? Cracks would appear in the walls, and one or more of the footings would eventually settle and sink, causing the building to collapse. We shore up buildings, why not ourselves? So, awareness first. Then, what to do about it? Being aware is the first step. The second, immediately after the first, is not judging yourself. Say to yourself, this is how I am finding myself today. That is what is called being neutral, not positive or negative, just neutral. Learn how to practice neutrality. And remember, all living matter carries 3 charges: positive, negative, and neutral. Neutrality is as much our birthright as is the process of taking and receiving. Neutral means no judgment, means just being. Those of you with cars will know what I'm saying. Think of what it feels like when you put your car in neutral, and on the gear shift. Your car idles, it is settled, it feels happy, you and the car know you are going nowhere, even though you're ready at any time to resume forward, or backward, motion. Point 1. The next step on the path to stability is giving energy to yourself. We sometimes call this loving yourself, and this is a good way to express it, too. When you find yourself out of sorts, unbalanced, or if you injure yourself, you can judge yourself as not worthy and tell yourself this is why you are this way, or you can give yourself the love you often give to others and not to yourself. Consider the difference between sending loving energy to yourself, say, if you have cut your finger, versus cursing yourself as stupid, or worse, the finger for getting in the way. Which of the 2 solutions do you think leads to greater and faster healing? And would you be surprised to hear that medical studies have already proved that sending energy to an injury hastens the healing process? Just read any of the work of Dolores Krieger, the brilliant co-founder of Therapeutic Touch, and you'll see what I mean. You might even take a course in it and share this skill with others. So how are you finding yourself today? Are you ready to address any imperfections you may find with neutrality, and even with some self-love? Good. You are on the path to taking responsibility for your own wellness and stability. And if you find you need a helping hand along the way, go to one of those local healers or bodyworkers you have always said you'd check out but have never gone to see. Remember, they are there to facilitate your own wellness, not to become another crutch in your life. They want you to make yourself well. Now, as to the revelations or awakenings in this book, how are you going to incorporate them into your newly stabilized body and life? I have a number of suggestions, and they mostly involve meditations. I also have a number of creative ideas of where you can go beyond these daily meditations, which I think you will also enjoy. 9-dimensional meditation, 20 to 30 minutes. Do you like to tune in before you have to get out of bed in the morning? Do you ever wake up 20 minutes before the alarm is going to ring, and feel like you don't want to get up, but you're not sure what to do? Or, can you take 20 to 30 minutes sometime in the day to tune into the dimensions? To do so, I suggest you initially follow the meditation described here, and then let it inspire you to create your own process, your own meditation. I also suggest that you do this meditation in the following manner. If you are lying down, increase the clarity and effectiveness of your meditation by placing your hands behind your head in what I call the Tom Sawyer pose. Overlap your fingers at the base of your skull, where it joins the top of your spine. See if you can find a place that seems to pressurize your brain a bit, to make your head seem a bit fuller. This is not recommended, however, if you have any current or recent head or brain injury. Experiment with the pose, until you feel yourself slowing down and are able to see things going on in your life more clearly. This will assist you in experiencing each dimension in this active form of meditation. Or if you are seated, let this meditation be an active form of inner work. 2. As you begin to experience each dimension as something you primarily see, hear, or feel, let it expand in your awareness. It is best to amplify whatever is bothering you, or inspiring you, so that you can see it clearly in all its details. Therefore, make your awareness of each dimension as large as possible. In doing so, you begin to see how it connects to you, how you connect to it. As a result, you are able to integrate it into your life in a way you would not otherwise. Make yourself comfortable. Take your time, and remember what you have learned so far about becoming comfortable, about settling. Let your gaze become soft, keep only enough focus to read these words. Find your breath, and find your feet. Return to your body, let your mind slowly let go of the dance of words and ideas you have been holding inside your head. Take a deep cleansing breath, and feel the air move along the inside of your skull, opening a space between your brain and your skull. Let your shoulders drop as you do this, and take another breath, doing the same things one more time. Notice how good this feels, after your brain has been working so hard. Find your midline, the column of energy that runs top to bottom through the center of your body. Let the energy of your next breath follow your midline, all the way down to the base of your spine. Experiment. First a soft breath, and then a deeper one. Place your attention on this centering space within yourself, the place where life force, the liquid light, moves up and down your body. Now feel how you are seated, how your bottom touches the chair you are in, or the surface you are lying upon. Take that same attention down to your feet, and see how they are planted, how they are in contact with the space below you. Let your next breath travel all the way down your body to your feet. Just notice the energy, feel how long your body is, how much energy there is in your feet. Now let your attention drift down through the floor, down through the foundation of the structure you are in, and into the ground beneath. You can picture this ground as dark yet still alive. You can see rocks and minerals and water and tiny organisms. Continue deeper and deeper, and see and feel and hear what's around you. Continue even deeper, and begin to feel the vibrations of the giant iron core crystal deep within the center of Earth. It is safe to travel down this way, down to our home at the center of our planet. Now begin to feel how this deep place resonates within your own body. Feel the vibrations of the iron core crystal at the base of your body. Feel the vibrations traveling through your feet and legs to the tip of your spine. Feel these vibrations held at your root, and cradled by your hips, one on each side. Feel these vibrations at your sacrum, that hand-shaped bone at the base of your spine, and at your pubic bone in front. Feel the sense of wateriness at this cradle in your body. Feel the sense of being fully present in our world of 3D, and anchored safely here at the cradle of your hips and spine, at your bottom. Hold this space. Notice that you are holding 3 dimensions in this space: the iron core crystal 1D, the telluric 2D, and linear time and space 3D. Take your time, there is a lot of information here. Take all the time you need to integrate these sensations into your body. Now move your attention to your navel. Notice how vibrant and alive this area of your body is. This is where you were connected, long ago, to Mother, nourishment, and life. Take a deep and long breath through this opening in your body, feel yourself expanding. Notice all the power you have here in your body. This is your drum, your belly brain. This is what helps you take action when you need to take action, including running if you need to run. You have power and primal wisdom here. This is the source of your power. This is the connection to the archetypal realm, 4D, the realm of collective feelings and story. Now move your attention to the center of your chest. Take a big breath here, and feel your ribs expanding, and your diaphragm letting go. Feel the air circulating in your body from each new breath. This is where you expand to receive and to send out. This is where you experience ideas and love and joy. Let your heart expand with each breath, and feel yourself becoming lighter and lighter. Welcome to the realm of unconditional love, 5D. As you take your next breath, let it come through your throat. Let this breath come in through your open throat, like through the mouth of a baby bird receiving nourishment from its mother. See how open you can make your throat. Feel how all the joints in your body relax as you do this, starting with your shoulders, then moving through your spine, your hips, your knees, your ankles. See how open and loose and relaxed you can make your body. This allows your perfect form, the idea of you, to become whole again. You are creating the realm of your very own sacred geometry, 6D. Tune into your structure, and visualize the perfection of your form if you can. Now place your attention on your third eye, the space between your eyebrows close to the middle of your forehead. As you place your attention here with your breath, you should begin to feel some heat, a place of recognition. Stay calm and take your time. Sometimes it takes a few breaths to heat up this sacred space in your body, this window of sight and vibration. Feel it open, and feel and see the sight it allows. Pretend you have eyes behind this space, and look out. What do you see? Let your sight go far, to an imaginary horizon, and see the sun setting or rising. Focus on this distant spot, and continue to feel your third eye pulsing. You are entering the galactic highways of light, 7D. See what comes to you today, whether as feelings, sights, or sounds. Now place your consciousness, and your breath, on the top of your skull, and just above it. Feel as if you have a hand above your head, warm, inviting, and not touching. Just there, beckoning. Let your energy flow to this hand. Let your consciousness rush up here, as you take each new breath. Feed this hand with your breath, as it feeds you with warmth and guidance. You are entering into the realm of the absolutes, of the divine, 8D. See what's here for you today. Take your time. It may come as a sight, a sound, or a feeling. See if the divine has a message for you today. Finally, you are ready to take your consciousness far from your center, to the center of our galaxy, 9D. Picture the energy streaming up your body from the iron core crystal, up through your crown, and on up to source. This source is the black hole, the attractor, at the center of our Milky Way. It is as much a part of you as is the iron core crystal. You are both iron core crystal and black hole. This is your matrix, your full expanded self. Stay with this feeling, and with this realization, as long as you like. Breathe softly and easily, your journey is complete. Now let your attention drift down through the floor, down through the foundation of the structure you are in, and into the ground beneath. You can picture this ground as dark yet still alive. You can see rocks and minerals and water and tiny organisms. Continue deeper and deeper, and see and feel and hear what's around you. Continue even deeper, and begin to feel the vibrations of the giant iron core crystal deep within the center of Earth. It is safe to travel down this way, down to our home at the center of our planet. Now begin to feel how this deep place resonates within your own body. Feel the vibrations of the iron core crystal at the base of your body. Feel the vibrations traveling through your feet and legs to the tip of your spine. Feel these vibrations held at your root, and cradled by your hips, one on each side. Feel these vibrations at your sacrum, that hand-shaped bone at the base of your spine, and at your pubic bone in front. Feel the sense of wateriness at this cradle in your body. Feel the sense of being fully present in our world of 3D, and anchored safely here at the cradle of your hips and spine, at your bottom. Hold this space. Notice that you are holding 3 dimensions in this space: the iron core crystal 1D, the telluric 2D, and linear time and space 3D. Take your time, there is a lot of information here. Take all the time you need to integrate these sensations into your body. Now move your attention to your navel. Notice how vibrant and alive this area of your body is. This is where you were connected, long ago, to mother, nourishment, and life. Take a deep and long breath through this opening in your body, feel yourself expanding. Notice all the power you have here in your body. This is your drum, your belly brain. This is what helps you take action when you need to take action, including running if you need to run. You have power and primal wisdom here. This is the source of your power. This is the connection to the archetypal realm, 4D, the realm of collective feelings and story. Now move your attention to the center of your chest. Take a big breath here, and feel your ribs expanding, and your diaphragm letting go. Feel the air circulating in your body from each new breath. This is where you expand to receive and to send out. This is where you experience ideas and love and joy. Let your heart expand with each breath, and feel yourself becoming lighter and lighter. Welcome to the realm of unconditional love, 5D. As you take your next breath, let it come through your throat. Let this breath come in through your open throat, like through the mouth of a baby bird receiving nourishment from its mother. See how open you can make your throat. Feel how all the joints in your body relax as you do this, starting with your shoulders, then moving through your spine, your hips, your knees, your ankles. See how open and loose and relaxed you can make your body. This allows your perfect form, the idea of you, to become whole again. You are creating the realm of your very own sacred geometry, 6D. Tune into your structure, and visualize the perfection of your form if you can. Now place your attention on your third eye, the space between your eyebrows close to the middle of your forehead. As you place your attention here with your breath, you should begin to feel some heat, a place of recognition. Stay calm and take your time. Sometimes it takes a few breaths to heat up this sacred space in your body, this window of sight and vibration. Feel it open, and feel and see the sight it allows. Pretend you have eyes behind this space, and look out. What do you see? Let your sight go far, to an imaginary horizon, and see the sun setting or rising. Focus on this distant spot, and continue to feel your third eye pulsing. You are entering the galactic highways of light, 7D. See what comes to you today, whether as feelings, sights, or sounds. Now place your consciousness, and your breath, on the top of your skull, and just above it. Feel as if you have a hand above your head, warm, inviting, and not touching. Just there, beckoning. Let your energy flow to this hand. Let your consciousness rush up here, as you take each new breath. Feed this hand with your breath, as it feeds you with warmth and guidance. You are entering into the realm of the absolutes, of the divine, 8D. See what's here for you today. Take your time. It may come as a sight, a sound, or a feeling. See if the divine has a message for you today. Finally, you are ready to take your consciousness far from your center, to the center of our galaxy, 9D. Picture the energy streaming up your body from the iron core crystal, up through your crown, and on up to source. This source is the black hole, the attractor, at the center of our Milky Way. It is as much a part of you as is the iron core crystal. You are both iron core crystal and black hole. This is your matrix, your full expanded self. Stay with this feeling, and with this realization, as long as you like. Breathe softly and easily, your journey is complete. Now, as you become aware of your 3D self, your conscious self, let your breaths become quicker and deeper. Take 3 strong breaths, one after another, and open your eyes. Remember where you have been, and know that you can return there any time. Welcome back to your everyday world, and let this day be filled with new understandings of what it is like to be fully alive. Experiencing the dimensions through your 4 bodies. Another technique, which complements inner work, is to see how you receive new awareness at each of your 4 bodies, physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. To do this, you must have a good working sense of each of your bodies. Learning how to read situations through your bodies is a bit like learning how to tune into your chakras. Just as you can tell yourself to tune into any of your chakras at a moment's notice, your solar plexus, your third eye, your root chakra, you can tell yourself to tune into any one of your bodies, your physical body, your spiritual body, your emotional body, your mental body. Barbara has discussed the 4 bodies earlier in this book, see Chapter 6, for example, and I'm sure they're a concept with which you may already be familiar. A new way to look at them is through the recent work of the biologist Joseph Chilton Pearce, who writes about the 4 brains: reptilian, mammalian, human, and neocortex. Point 3. Each of these brains controls a different part of our perception and personality. The reptilian brain definitely connects us to our physical bodies, to our ability to connect to the elementals. The mammalian brain contains flight or fight codes, which connect us to our emotional bodies. The human brain is noted for reasoning, which connects us to our mental bodies. And the neocortex, our higher brain, connects us to our spiritual bodies. By tuning into one aspect of our brain or another, we are connecting to one or another of those 4 bodies. Being able to find the 4 bodies is a good starting point in finding multidimensional consciousness. More 9-dimensional meditations. Seated meditation with Tibetan bells or chimes. This 9-dimensional meditation is designed for a seated pose. Please remember to make yourself comfortable in your pose. Often a pillow is needed to lift you off the floor a bit to ease pressure on your sacrum and tailbone. When you are comfortable and settled, call your attention, out loud or in silence, to each of the dimensions in succession. When you call out each one, say, "I call my attention R," if you are doing a group meditation, to the first dimension, and ring the bells or chime. Let the resonance of the instrument fill the room, and let your body feel the fullness of the dimension you have invoked. You can do this in ceremonies, at sacred sites, or with a partner. You can add words, such as, the first dimension, home of the iron core crystal. You can call on the keepers of the dimensions. Be creative. Let yourself experience the feeling of each dimension. Each one is an aspect of each one of us. This meditation can take 10 to 20 minutes, and longer if you wish to enter into silence following the invocations. Standing, on the run meditation, 1.5 minutes. Sometimes we are in constant motion during a day, and we have little or no time to meditate. Here's an idea of how to take just 90 seconds and make contact with all 9 dimensions. For those of you who do yoga, you'll find this to be familiar territory. How many times does your instructor remind you to breathe, either while you're concentrating on a pose or as you are out in the world, having a hectic day? Yes, just breathe. As our favorite yoga master Kali Ray says, stay relaxed and the benefits of practice stay with you. The meditation is simple, yet powerful. Stop whatever you are doing and simply take a series of 9 even breaths. Inhale for 5 seconds, filling your lungs and your body, then exhale for 5 seconds. Each time you do this, think of each dimension in succession. First breath, first dimension. Second breath, second dimension, and so on. 10 seconds per breath cycle times 9 dimensions equals 90 seconds. See what you feel like afterwards. Wow, nice to stay in touch with the big picture, don't you agree? And notice how this calms down your central nervous system, just by taking your attention off outside stimulation and switching to the internal ones. Good work, and keep on doing it. Once a day at least at the beginning, then whenever you find yourself getting off track, unfocused, and needing to resource yourself. Journey to the 9 dimensions using music. The incredibly gifted composer Michael Stearns created his own interpretation of the 9 dimensions through 24 tracks of composed music, recorded voices, and natural sounds. We play this CD, which we entitled Journeys Through 9 Dimensions, during all our activations, and most of our students now own it. Information on how to order the CD is at the back of the book. We recommend that you lie down, be comfortable, and do your best to stay awake. Let your body respond and flow with the music. Keep a tablet handy, and when the CD is over, immediately jot down any special things you remember about any or all of the dimensions. Keep in mind your experiences with the dimensions will change over time, they are never the same. This is an ongoing process. Keep the notes handy, and if you are doing the meditation with a friend, compare notes. If you're doing it in a class, form a circle and tell your experiences, one by one, around the circle. Someone else's experience will often ignite memories of your own. Weave a story of the dimensions as a group. Use the 9-dimensional CD during a healing session. This can be done while you are receiving a session from a bodyworker, or when you are giving a session yourself. Keep in mind that it is probably best to turn off the CD after it finishes the 9th dimension. Track 10 is a blend of the dimensions, which can be integrative and good to listen to later. For now, you just want to tune into the 9 dimensions, one by one, which the music does beautifully. If you are a bodyworker reading these words, keep in mind that this is powerful music, not designed for everyone. Become familiar with it yourself first, then offer it when the time is right for the right client. For instance, if a client is working on grounding, it can be an excellent tool for helping that client be grounded, as well as higher dimensional. As a practitioner, I love to work with the CD, as it helps me pace myself, and I get to re-experience the 9 dimensions in a special way. Live 1 dimension for the whole day. This exercise is fun. It does not have to interfere with your day at all. All you have to do is set the intention on which dimension you wish to place your attention on that day, then live it. Take what you know of that dimension and watch to see what comes to you. For example, I wanted to have a 4th dimensional day, to interact with the archetypal energies and see what synchronicities would teach me that day, i.e., what would happen outside myself that would confirm what I was thinking about or feeling. Within minutes, my attention was on the sound of the animals in the yard and my neighbor next door. I felt like I had walked through a doorway in my mind. I had placed my focus on my larger field, in which I was a player. It was a very comfortable feeling, almost like imagining myself to be the Yaqui master Don Juan out receiving teachings in the desert landscape. I had a much broader, richer, interactive day. I still went about my business, I just had an additional track, or program, running in my mind. I did not lack for entertainment that day, nor will you. Open your heart and have a day of unconditional 5D love. Watch the geometry and sacred order in all things on a 6D day. Call on 8D and see what higher lessons are to be learned that day. The choices, and creativity, are endless. Take a 9-day, 9-dimensional vacation. If you'd like to experience the dimensions one day at a time, over 9 days, why not spend 9 days of vacation somewhere nice and do just that? Your 10th day can be your return day, and let it be the day you integrate all that you have learned. Create your own activation. We encourage all the students who attend our workshops to teach this material to their own students, friends, and/or family, and to lead an activation. In the workshops, we do a 6-polarity, Wheel of 12 exercise with the students before we start the activation, much as Barbara described earlier in this book, see Chapter 3. It is important, if you choose to lead a group in this work, to make sure your students are well grounded before they encounter the dimensions through the music, whether you use the CD or make your own, using a crystal bowl or other musical instrument. There is nothing more empowering than being the teacher, plus you get to relearn the material all over again yourself. We have taught over 200 activations, and they never are the same. The material only keeps growing and evolving, along with the music. Exploring your home dimension. A good way to complete this book, this process of awakening, is to go back through the dimensions one more time, this time with your body and mind more awakened, more empowered. What matters now is how you integrate this material in your life. It reminds me of leading a horse to water. It is up to the horse to decide whether to drink. One way to begin this process is to ask yourself, what dimension or dimensions do I feel closest to? Is there one I feel as home to me? Do I naturally gravitate to one or another? This is an important concept to cover. This colors your feelings about all the dimensions and also gives you the power to discover more. Unless you have a personal interest, these dimensions are just concepts, however interesting or fascinating. Maybe nothing resonated with you as you went through the dimensions the first time, or maybe one or two did. You either got excited, or ideas or images started popping into your head, or not. To get this far in this book, I'm assuming you did find one that particularly interested you. All I want to say here is, embrace this dimension, get to know it. The meditations and practices described in this chapter are a start. You will be able to go on a much deeper journey once you discover your dimension. You in effect become a teacher of that dimension. Think about the guides, the dreams, the awarenesses you have probably had throughout your life, and how they relate to your dimension. Barbara suggests you create an altar to that dimension, get a feeling of which direction it is most in resonance with, and place objects there that remind you of that dimension and its qualities. This becomes your tune-in place to that dimension, a mini portal to that dimension. To help you further, find others who share your dimension. I'm sure if you look around yourself, you'll find you already have many of them in your life. It is like realizing many of your closest friends also share your astrological sign, or are strongly aspected to it. Just as you might have a Leo party, or a fire sign party, for Leos, Aries, and Sagittarians, you might have a second dimension party, or an even dimension party, for 2D, 4D, 6D, and 8D people. See more on this concept in the next section. The important thing is, find out where you are centered, and move forward from there. Once you can own one dimension, you can begin to open up to, and work with, all of them. Noticing neighboring dimensions and the odd-even dimensions. One of the best ways to become more familiar with your home dimension is through the dimensions to either side of it. Take another look at figure I2 in the introduction, and notice how the energy of one dimension steps down, or steps up, into the energy of the next along the vertical axis. This will allow you to begin to feel the subtle differences between those dimensions on one side of the vertical axis or the other. Barbara teaches, and many students have agreed, that as individuals we tend to favor the even dimensions as a group, or the odd dimensions as a group. This is probably because we are naturally linked to an odd or even dimension to begin with. That is, it is our home base. See the previous section, or one that we are working with or locked into at this time. The point is, we have natural inclinations, tastes, or dispositions. This is where we start, then we begin to move into all the dimensions. The odd and even dimensions do have particular qualities. We tend to think of the odd dimensions 1D, 3D, 5D, 7D, and 9D as highly conscious and conceptual, in other words, very comfortably received in our conscious minds, and the even dimensions 2D, 4D, 6D, and 8D as emotional or structural, in other words, felt, dimensions that we often take in through our unconscious minds. Personally, I feel that the odd dimensions have a lot to do with the mind, with the vertical axis, with above and below. And the even dimensions have more to do with our feelings, with the horizontal planes, with being here now, with having form and boundaries. A good way to reflect on these vertical and horizontal qualities is to picture a yoga pose, such as the seated twist. You feel this pose horizontally, but you can also feel it vertically. As you breathe into the pose, you twist further on the horizontal plane, but your breath also reminds you about the rise and fall of your spine, the distance from your sacrum to your crown. In any case, I like to use the word movement with the odd dimensions, and containment with the even dimensions. See if this strikes a chord with you, as you begin to work with the dimensions yourself. Another way to look at the odd and even dimensions is via the right brain and left brain, or via the terms yin-yang, involution, evolution. If we notice the vertical axis drawn against the human body, see figure 1.5, all the even dimensions are on the left side, the side controlled by the right or intuitive brain, the odd dimensions are on the right side, controlled by the left or linear brain. The left side is akin to yin, the right side to yang. Using Dr. Randolph Stone's polarity therapy model, primal energy from the creator, or source moves down the right side of our body as involution, and back up our left side as evolution, in a continual loop of output and input. Relating the dimensions to the chakras. The 7 major chakras associated with our bodies are like 7 energy bundles or energy centers into which our subtle energy systems are wired. They are like junction boxes in a house's electrical system, and they are very palpable, able to be felt and interacted with to experienced bodyworkers. When I pass my hand over a client lying prone on my table, I can usually find the chakras as a change of vibration, sometimes with a feeling of warmth attached. I can especially feel the effect of what happens when I am holding that client with the other hand. An actual felt current passes from my off-body hand to the hand that is receiving. This tells me where that client is holding energy at that particular time, and is sometimes a clue as to where to work next. For a long time, I kept looking at Barbarous and the P's chart of the vertical axis, see figure I2, and wondering how those 9 dimensions related to the human body, and especially to our chakras. I have come to think of the iron core crystal and the galactic center as 2 additional chakras to which we are all communally related, in other words, they are shared by all. I also wonder if, as we become more sensitive and transparent, i.e., transfigured as a species, our root chakras, located on our coccyx, some say, the remnant of our prehistoric tails, will eventually become hardwired to the iron core crystal. In the same way, I wonder about our crown chakras, which are energetically connected to the tops of our brains. Will they too become connected energetically to the galactic center? Will we therefore expand energetically as a species, being intimately, i.e., all the time connected to the above and the below? Is this what the end of the Mayan calendar is all about? And is this why the Pleiadians via Satya in the Pleiadian agenda insist that they see humans with only 5 chakras connected to our bodies, i.e., they combine our root and sexual chakras and call them our sexual center? Is it possible they see us as the humans of the future? Meanwhile, back here in 2004 and counting, we are still getting used to being in the bodies we have. Here is how I relate our current, felt, chakras to the 9 dimensions. In parentheses, I have noted the element to which each of the lower chakras relates. Feel 1D at our coccygeal or root chakra, earth. Feel 2D at our sacral or sexual chakra, water. Feel 3D at both of these chakras, earth and water. Feel 4D at the solar plexus chakra, fire. Feel 5D at the heart chakra, air. Feel 6D at the throat chakra, ether. Feel 7D at the third eye chakra. Feel 8D at the crown chakra. Feel 9D at the crown chakra. This gives us a starting point. Each of you will have your own subtle interpretations of how you feel dimensional vibrations at your chakras. Write to us at our address shown at the back of the book. We'd like to hear your experiences. As I have said before, this work with the 9 dimensions is a work in progress, as are our bodies and our awarenesses of them. Keep tuning into yours, and let us know what you discover. Good energetic bodywork is an excellent way to open up and learn about your chakras, particularly with a practitioner who has good verbal skills, i.e., communicates well with clients. I love the association of the dimensions with our chakras and the elements. The chakras are electromagnetic and the elements are biological. All living things need the elements to perform the dance we call life, and the expression of that dance is felt at the chakras. And note, as I commented earlier, that our multiple connections to the above 8D and 9D, and to the below 1D and 2D may evolve as we evolve. I'm looking forward to those next steps in our evolution. Noticing the dimensions opening in your relationships. Bookstores are crammed, floor to ceiling, with all sorts of books on relationships. I hesitate to add much more to such a wealth of material. I'll just add one interesting tip. When you are relating to another person, whether it be a child, a parent, a friend, a lover, be mindful of what dimension you both are in before you engage in that conversation or action. We think we're all in 3D all the time, but consider those times you don't feel quite here, or you are out of it. Where are you? Where is the person you are relating to? Do either of you know north, south, east, west, or what time of day it is? Are your feet on the ground? Are you conscious of your breathing? Besides working on having both of you in 3D at the same time, or a whole room full, if you are lecturing or speaking before a group, you can also do other dimensional work in your relationships, such as moving both parties into another dimension together. In other words, both choose to go into another dimension at the same time, and then see what happens between you. If you are a lecturer, this would mean moving the group's attention to another dimension, as well as your own. Just be sure you let others know where they are going, and where you're going as well. Meet you in the fifth dimension. Noticing the dimensions opening in your workplace. At work we have many teaching relationships. Barbara says that is the main reason we all have jobs, to learn from one another. Relationships with fellow employees and the boss are important and often touch on power issues. Take what you have learned by relating to your friends and family dimensionally, and use it here, only this time, it is your job, your livelihood, your future we are talking about. When you have a hard time with someone at work, figure out what dimension he or she is coming from. Is this a fourth dimensional takeover, i.e., the collective, cultural mind taking over, or is this just a difficult 3D conversation? See if 1D and 2D even exist in your workplace, as well as the higher dimensions of 8D and 9D. If not, seek ways to have those dimensions available. Taking crystals to work is a good start, and holding high intentions and backing them up through your actions is another one. I wish you well, in all ways, in your 9-dimensional workplace. Practical applications of 9-dimensional consciousness. In closing, I'd like to share a few of the practical applications of the 9-dimensional work that we have seen taking place through our students. Here is a brief list. Teachers and parents who have experienced these dimensions have been able to open new dialogues with their students and children, who in their own lives are seeing these dimensions yet are unable and not encouraged to express them. Young people today want to be multidimensional, more than at any time in history. They are showing it in their body ornament, their dress, their language, their ability to take to the streets as mimics and mimes. Teaching them the 9 dimensions gives them a much welcomed road map to multidimensional consciousness. Office workers and those who work in business or the law, once they see the pyramid system and the power of the 8th dimension, are making clearer choices for themselves and their loved ones, which for some means leaving their work and for others blowing the whistle on those who are misusing power and position. Medical practitioners and healers are awakened to the roots of their power, the 1st and 2nd dimensions, and to the canopy of the 4th that must be encountered and understood for the healing of themselves and their patients. Painters and artists have already sensed the 9 dimensions and appreciate the clarification of their intuitions, allowing them to express the dimensions more freely in their everyday work. Meditators and spiritual teachers have appreciated the road map of consciousness, supplied by the 9 dimensions, allowing them to place themselves more easily in multidimensionality. And those who are simply curious and open to new thought have come away from the activations with broader minds and a deeper appreciation of those who seek to find answers to life's biggest questions. Who are we? Why are we here? What is our role on the planet?